Evening, everyone. I'd like to call Policies and Priorities Committee meeting to order Monday, June 14th, 2021. I do have an addition to the agenda, possibly. I'd like to add a discussion on the Canada Day celebrations upcoming, or the activities planned. I'd like to move that as a motion. Seconder. Councillor Majinski, discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Defeated. Thank you. Any other additions to the agenda? And approval of the agenda, please. Councillor Majinski.
That the Monday, June 14th, 2021 Policies and Priority Committee meeting agenda be approved as presented.
Seconder. Councillor Krokowka. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Adoption of the minutes, Monday, May 10th, 2021, Policies and Priorities meeting minutes. Recommendation, please. Councillor Norberg.
Thank you. The Monday, May 10th, 2021 Policies and Priority meeting minutes be approved as presented.
Seconder. Councillor Lehman. Any errors or omissions? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Any business arising from the minutes? Council? Staff? Thank you. And petitions and delegations, we have with us this evening from CONUMA Resources, Mr. John Schadan and Sam Payment to update council on the operations. Please welcome.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, for this opportunity. Can you hear me okay? I'm just going to get a presentation.
Gotcha.
Okay. Well, thank you again for this opportunity to give you an update on CONUMA Resources and what we're doing. It's an exciting time for us. But I just want to start out with talk a bit about safety and give you a COVID update on our operations. So on May 4th, our Burrell mine was awarded the 2020 Edward Pryor Award. That is an award provided by the province, the Chief Inspector of Mines Office, for the safest mid-sized mine in British Columbia. And CONUMA Mine has won that award every year that we've been in full operation. So I just want to commend Burrell. It's been bouncing back and forth between Wolverine and Burrell, but I know that Willow has their eye on this award for 2021. As well, you know, it's been a while since March of 2020 when COVID-19 was declared a pandemic. We have had in our company a total of about 560 of our employees go on self-isolation out of an abundance of caution. So they've had symptoms and we sent them home for 14 days. We looked after them in terms of pay and benefits during that time. And the vast majority of them, it was just out of an abundance of caution. But we've had a total of about 13 confirmed cases that we are aware of our employee ranks, and 2 out of our contractor base out of this whole time. We think that those are, you know, unfortunately that we've had 13, but we think that our contact tracing protocols have been key in containing any further spread than some of the stories you hear in other industries and other situations around the country and around the world. So we're very pleased and proud of our employees, how they followed our protocols. And for example, on the buses where we've had the COVID protocols and tracking who sits where, so that we know exactly who has been in close contact with any positive cases. The Chief Inspector of Mines has also commented, and the Northeastern Public Health Authority has commented on our contact tracing, and they came out to one of our mines to see how we did it as well. So again, we are very proud. Northern BC Health also designated enough AstraZeneca Covishield vaccines for an industrial workplace vaccination program in northern British Columbia with all mines. CONUMA was fortunate enough to become part of that for that group. And right out of the gate, we brought in pharmacists and doctors in the local area and nurses to help us administer them at our work sites, and we vaccinated ourselves with Trish out of Tumbler Ridge Pharmacy and the pharmacist out of Chetwynd, 159 of our employees. It was voluntary, couldn't make it mandatory, but 159 of our employees signed up, and we're just finishing up the second doses right now. And so that's in parallel to the community program that has already started as well, that you're aware of. So we're very pleased with that. So CONUMA, you know, these first couple slides are part of my previous presentation to you. I don't plan to get into too much detail other than to say, you know, we still are planning to be around 900 employees. As you know, Willow, we put into temporary curtailment with market conditions last year, but we are ramping up to full 24-hour operations and arranging our planning, and I'll speak to the market in a little bit on what's driving that. We continue to be local. We continue to have our First Nations partners that we thrive on. Our engagement with communities and local businesses. Local businesses have not been impacted by COVID. We still need to buy the supplies. We still need to keep our operations running. But in terms of communities and outreach and being visible, it's been a bit quiet. And we're helping behind the scenes a little bit, but I think when we can get out more and we get past the lockdown and all the other measures that are going on to protect everybody, we're going to get back to being a more visible in the community and even with our employees. So the one thing though is we do continue to have premium hard coking coal and PCI products that we deliver for export. They continue to be in demand, and when I update you on the market, we can't make enough of it. These are our three mines: Brule, Wolverine, and Willow Creek, and again, we're in the midst of ramping up to 24-hour operations at our Willow Creek operation. So global steel demand, I mean, we're seeing the world economies in full recovery, and how you see that is through steel demand. And you know, for the past 5 quarters, steel demand has grown over the past 5 quarters, and we expect to see that continue for the rest of 2021. And who knows, as the world opens up and we see some stimulus money going from governments. But in addition to this is a rather busy slide, but you know, I'll focus on the graph to the right. So you can see the two areas. The brown shaded area on the left is the impacts from COVID-19 through 2020. But and then you can see with what's going on right now, we're seeing since the end of last year and right through to today, Chinese trade fight with Australia. So they banned the import of Australian coal into their market. But at the same time, demand for steel is taking off, and they recognize that they need more. So we are seeing an uptick. So the dark brown line at the top is what you see China is willing to pay for steelmaking coal. The lighter line on the bottom is what our traditional term customers, or spot price, is paying. It's gone up and down, but it hasn't taken off like the Chinese market. So we are balancing our sales into China with maintaining relationships with our term customers so they have some flexibility, so we can divert some to take advantage of that pricing. And the orange dots are what you see as the blended pricing that we're receiving from our term customers and our ability to enter into the Chinese market. So we shared this with our employees, and it's an important part. So when we talk about what's important to CONUMA, and you're going to hear, and you have heard in conversations with you about regulatory certainty and permitting, that's the value to us. If we can get timely permits, we have to do our homework. It allows us to capitalize on this. We can't make enough of it right now. I'm going to let Sam handle the next few slides here. Sam is responsible and the lead for our regulatory and permitting activities related to our growth of our permit reserves.
Great. Thanks, John. Hello, everyone. So I'm here to speak to you today on the Wolverine-Herman Amendment Project. It's also referred to as the Herman Disturbance Area, so you'll hear me say that as well. It is an expansion to the Wolverine Mine, as the Wolverine Mine life of mine comes to an end, and the Perry Creek pit, the Herman pit within the Herman Disturbance Area, will extend the life of mine. Pardon me. will provide, additional reserves to the coal processing plant, an addition of 7 years. It provides additional, a continuation of jobs. We support approximately 210 during construction, and the existing mine workforce of 345 personnel will be transitioned over to the Herman disturbance area once it becomes an operation. Like the Perry Creek pit, the Herman pit will be an open pit mine, and the coal from the Herman pit will be transported to the Wolverine Mine coal processing plant via the existing coal haul road. It'll be shipped via rail to the market, and again, it will extend the coal processing plant by 7 years. Thanks, John. So just an update on the regulatory side. On February 12th of this year, we received an environmental assessment certificate amendment to the Wolverine Mine environmental assessment certificate to include the Herman project, or the Herman disturbance area. So it is now part of the Wolverine Mine. Unfortunately, a Mines Act permit amendment approval has been delayed, and I'm going to turn that over to John to provide a little bit more information on the delay.
So we already knew that Perry Creek Pit and Wolverine was running out of permitted reserves, which was the need for Herman. And with the delay in the Herman permit, and I'm not putting it at the feet of anybody, it's just where we are today. We needed to find other sources of coal to make sure we didn't have a 1-year gap. And we've got it down to about a 2-month gap here that we're starting to experience now. But we looked at all the finished high walls within Perry Creek Pit, and we came up with a pushback of one of the pits. So a pushback means, you've got the high wall, we go back up top and we mine down another slice of it, so to speak. But it comes up with a very high stripping ratio, so there's lots of waste that we've got to move for little coal. But our engineering team have done a great job, and we worked with the regulator to do a quick amendment. So it's within the permitted area of Perry Creek, it's within our disturbance area. We weren't clearing any more trees or doing anything like that. So together with ourselves and the review of First Nations, we were able to get a quick approval for that pushback. And there's a smaller one that's in process right now that Sam is working on to provide some additional blend coal, again, another pushback. But that's something that we're really proud of, everybody all together, how we were able to pull that off. So back to you, Sam.
Great, thanks, John. So, as mentioned, we have received an environmental assessment certificate to include the Herman disturbance area within the Wolverine Mine. Additional to that, we require a Mines Act permit amendment and Environmental Management Act amendment. We are submitting that today. It is well underway. We're just finalizing some documents, and it'll go in this evening. And we are in the review phase for that, so the review will continue. It's very exciting for us. So an update on approvals that we've received to date. I mentioned the environmental assessment certificate received on February 12th of this year. We've also received 2 occupant licenses to cut for the Herman disturbance area. It covers the full boundary. It allows us to harvest in preparation for construction activities and then mine operations. We've also received a Mines Act permit amendment for harvest roads. The harvest roads allow us to access those harvesting blocks. And in addition to that, we've received 2 Water Sustainability Act licenses, which allow us to use and divert water for the project. So I'm going to speak now to CONUMA's future and additional future potential amendments and projects for CONUMA. We have the Houdet project, which is located between the Willow Creek and Brule mines along the FCCR Fallen Creek Connector Road. With Brule's life of mine expected to end in 2024, Houdet is being looked at right now as the next project. It has 40 million tons of coal reserves defined, and we've initiated baseline studies with respect to groundwater and surface water baseline studies as of 2020. We have also started initiating field studies this year, so there will be job opportunities being created locally for the field work. And as we have 25 location drilling programs starting in June, so this month, late this month, for additional drilling and understanding of the reserve.
Okay, I'd like to give you an update on an environmental initiative, and that's the partnership agreement. And I think you're all aware of that in concept, but on February 21st, excuse me, the Canadian government, the BC government, Saulteaux First Nations, and West Moberly First Nations signed the intergovernmental partnership agreement for the conservation of the central group of the southern mountain caribou. And CONUMA has, and myself personally, have supported that initiative since I've been part of this company and since CONUMA has been in existence here. So it essentially agrees to commit and protect over 700,000 hectares of important caribou habitat in northeastern BC. And the overall goal here is to help rebuild and regrow the populations of caribou to get them at sustainable levels, and sustainable levels on their own, and sustainable for harvesting through the traditional Aboriginal and treaty rights that exist today. And we wholeheartedly accept that. So what have we done as well to support the partnership agreement? So far to date, we've deferred approximately 5,000 hectares of our coal tenures in support of the partnership agreement, the interim moratorium that we've agreed to, and it just has been agreed to extend it for another 2 years. That's on top of, we were originally going to go to East Bull Moose for Perry Creek, and that is at a different elevation and caribou habitat, so that's why we're in the process of permitting Herman today. We also funded a caribou lichen research program with the University of Alberta, and also a sampling and recovery program. So lichen is a very important food source for caribou. We've developed and continue to develop caribou management and mitigation plans to protect the local quintet herd with all of our activities that we undertake. We've committed in 2 steps at this point, 1.5 million of financial capacity funding here during the Harmon operations for caribou recovery. And we've recently relinquished 292 hectares of coal license back to the province for Indigenous-led caribou maternal penning program. That was identified as an important area that we were pleased to do that. I want to update you all on a coal stockpile removal and transport initiative that we've got going on. Mayor, I mentioned to you that we're looking at doing this. We've received all approvals to do this. So what this is we've got the Quintet operation and the Trend Mine operation, and we've identified collectively some stockpiles that have been sitting there with currently no plans to deal with them. That's not a slight to those companies, it's just while they figure out their business plans going forward. We've got together with them and developed a plan that we would buy them. We would pick them up and haul them over to our Wolverine plant and process them. It's the same coal trends, it fits with our model, and it helps clean up the environment so that we're not generating dust. So together I think it's a win-win-win all around with this initiative. We're looking at approximately 350,000 tons between Quintet and the Trend Mine. We're just finalizing the commercial arrangements with most companies. They're very willing, very motivated. Again, on the regulatory side, we've got approvals to manage all of this. There's no mining going to be involved. These are actually just digging up stockpiles, loading them on highway trucks, covered highway trucks. There are 2 routes, and I know the map here is pretty busy, but on the top right of the purple line, you see some white labeling there. That's Tumbler Ridge. And then to the left of Tumbler Ridge, the yellow line, that's the start of the Wolverine mine. So the pinkish purple line is the highway. There's 3 points along, so I can get into more detail if you'd like, or send some more detail, but at the Quintet operation, at the PRC plant area, and there's another stockpile location for the Trend Mine as well. So three locations that we're going to be loading and hauling over between 1st of July and to the end of August. So why that long period of time? Well, 350,000 tons, we're going to be hauling around 180 loads through a 24-hour period. We're looking at around-the-clock operation with these trucks. We are in the midst of finalizing a commercial arrangement with, I can't speak to that right now, but I think when we announce that, that'll be another win, and you can we can discuss that later to the local communities as well. But I guess something to highlight is they'll be going down the highway over a couple month period. We are going to have health and safety and oversight and management of the trucking. We're going to protect to the extent that we can, that we follow all the highways, roads. We're going to have the flashing speedometer signs for the trucks when they approach the closest part to Tumbler Ridge. They'll be going down a hill towards the campground at that time. We're going to make sure that there's no other brakes, no other noises, that there'll be normal highway traffic and as close that we can. We also have a backup haul through Forestry Services roads if that needs to happen for whatever reason. But we at this point in time are planning to keep it on the highway. It'll be the quickest, it'll be the most safest, it'll be the most productive. But we do have a backup plan if there are some concerns that are raised from the public. They'll be also on our website as well. Once we get that posted, contact information, I can get that to you on what if community people call, who they can call to get a hold of us. So, one of the things we've talked about is regulatory certainty, and that's important to us in the long run. We have a tremendous opportunity here with the uptick in pricing. Demand for the coal out of this area, they'll buy all we can produce. We need to do it safely. We've talked about our safe record. We're very proud of our environmental record here in the community. When we can get back out and be more participatory after COVID, we're gonna get back to the old way CONUMA was, not only with our employees but engaging with the community. So we have positive relationships with our First Nations partners. We have positive relationships with the regulatory agencies and the government, with the great work Sam and the team are doing to maintain transparency on the technical side of things. Sam probably hasn't had any sleep here for the last 2 months because she's about to get a major permit amendment application into the government. That in itself is an undertaking that you can't even imagine. So I want to thank Sam and the team for that. So I don't want to dwell on that too much. I know there's lots of initiatives, and any jurisdiction I've worked at, we've always talked about how to streamline that. So we're trying to be productive and constructive with the province as well, and any opportunity we have to share our thoughts on that. But on the sustainable operation, we're on the course to become a leader in the Canadian mining industry on environmental, social, governance, corporate practices. So you're hearing about ESG, but ESG is, we've created Hugh Kendrick, our former CFO. We have a new CFO. He's now our Chief Sustainability Officer. He's rolling out the plans and developing the plans for what that looks like for us as a company, but it's going to touch a broad spectrum of our business, and it's going to inform a lot of our decisions around air and water management practices, our wildlife preservation, effectiveness of our health and safety policies, how we manage our supply chain, how we manage our people and our culture, just to name a few, but really in particular, minimizing our climate impacts or reducing our carbon intensity. We're looking at things like electric buses as an example. So there's more to come, and as maybe our next update to Mayor and Council here, I'll bring Hugh with me to give more fulsome conversation on that. So stay tuned. So, and community support. I touched on this a lot, but there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes. And most recently, we've been engaged with the high school, and we wanted to do some job shadowing with some of the more interested and active students in the getting ready to figure out what their careers are like. We had it all lined up. We had students lined up with every department in our company on a called a work share, but it was an opportunity for them. And then the second lockdown came, so we had to put an end to that. But that's another example, and even student apprenticeship programs as well. We're going to continue to work with the high school on that. So that's some examples of what we're trying to do behind the scenes here, but as part of the community. So with strong demand for our products that continue on, we're working hard to drive down our safety-related incidents, as you can see with the awards that we're getting, continue to strengthen our relationship with our First Nations partners, and I'm proud to be actively a part of that, and that team with Sam and her team as well. continuing to investigate additional sources of coal. We've talked about Perry Creek. There could be some opportunities within Brule that we're doing. So again, that minimizes any impact to the environment and still adds longevity to CONUMA for the benefit of everyone. Continuing to improve the efficiency of our fleet. We bought in 19, we bought the electric drive trucks. We're about to make a significant investment in the new buckets for our shovels. And long story short is it'll reduce the cycle time we have to load our trucks. So we'll be more productive with our current fleet. But we're about to make a significant investment in capital to do that and continue to drive down our unit operating cost.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, John and Sam. Council, any questions? Councilor Norbury?
Just more a comment, Mayor. Thank you. So thank you both for coming in and giving us an update. It's great to hear. I'm not, employed at the mine, so it's good to hear what you guys are doing. You were talking about some of your regulatory issues, and I want to give you an update from our side of that. We're going to be discussing later about meetings with ministries and meeting with the Ministry of Mines to get that regulatory certainty, to expedite the process for you guys. It's something that we are all passionate about to keep operations going for you guys. So just to let you know, we're behind you 110%. This is entirely council.
Thank you for that. And please, if you want to reach out to me, I know you reach out to me, and the larger group of municipalities in the region have been very supportive. So we appreciate that, and to the extent that I could provide you any information that helps you, please don't hesitate to reach out.
Thank you. Councilor Howe?
Yeah, I got a bunch here, so I'll just a few questions here and I'll let somebody else get in here. But so the first one that I wanted to just ask you, thanks again for coming in, guys. It's been fantastic. Is the 2-month gap that you referred to at the Wolverine mine. So the coal, I assume that you're hauling over from Quintet to PRC is to kind of close that gap up while you're stripping more in Perry Creek. Is that the intent?
Well, it just so turns out that we didn't expect to get approvals. This is the one area where the government was very efficient, and we didn't expect it. So it came in so that it can overlay with some of that gap right now.
Okay. And so then 7 years, you talked about the Wolverine mine, that Herman would extend the life of the plant anyways for Wolverine. So if we were to kick off in 2023 with 2030, that would be kind of the idea of that one. We likely would be looking at winding down the Wolverine mine site, or is there any potential anywhere else out there?
Well, absolutely. So I wouldn't be additive because we don't just go from Perry Creek. There's going to be a transition. So as we ramp down, there's going to be less and less production coming out of there, and we're going to have construction activities ramping up and up and up. So there could be, a 12, 18, maybe 24-month gap, overlap that we're working through on the mine planning process right now. So it's not end of 2023 and add 7 years. There's going to be an overlap.
Okay, so just trying to think out ahead for the community. It's the major employer in the town. 2018 or 2028, 2030, somewhere in that. Is there any possibility of coal beyond that point?
Yes, there is.
Okay.
So there's more leases out there. Sam touched on Houdet for Brule's replacement in 2024. This is a great lead time to get those studies done so that we can have that permit in place, but there is additional reserves that we plan on permitting for Herman to continue the life of Wolverine. More to come on that.
Okay.
In fact, we're going to be preparing a regulatory roadmap with the province and give them some insight over the next 20 years of what we're going to do. When I have that might be a good time to come and give another update.
Absolutely. Councilor Howe?
Yeah.
Sorry.
So then with the coal hauling down the highway, so we had only heard about this, that's kind of the point of asking you guys to come in. We'd only kind of heard about it here a couple of weeks ago that this was coming. Is there any flavor or any intention to utilize the off-highway portion for return coal haul? Like you haul the coal down the highway and then come back the other direction, rather than having coal trucks go in both directions? I mean, my thought process on it is you guys are going to be utilizing that haul road when Herman goes anyways. So wouldn't this be a good opportunity to get coal trucks into that area? The problem being that the only issue that I see with the coal haul is hauling coal right through the community of Tumbler Ridge, We've got an area at Tumbler by Flatbed Falls where you come through the community where the highway has to slow down to, I think it's 70 kilometers an hour where we have to be in that zone there. Logging trucks tend to forget that they have to slow down to that. I understand that you guys are a little more, you're here more often, and you're walking the same roads that we are. That's my concern about that area in there is the speed of the coal trucks going through there. I'm hoping that you guys are on that. It sounds like you are. But, you know, is there any flavor to shift it to the woods, like the off-road side of it? I understand it's likely more costly, but how much more costly? Is it totally out of the picture?
Well, listen, we have the luxury of having that second route, so that's the first thing. We are in the midst of finalizing the trucking plan for the successful bidder on how they're going to manage that stretch of the road. That's something I'm personally involved in the negotiation of that. Will it go perfect? We hope. If it doesn't, we are prepared to do and adjust whatever we need to based on feedback. So if you're good with that answer right now, we have another route, and we will do whatever we need to do so this does not become a problem for the town of Tumbler Ridge.
Councillor Lehman?
If and when you do go to debt, are you still going to use the facilities at Rule, or do you have to build another, like, load out and?
No, the concept right now would be very similar to Perry Creek. Use the same plant there. We have the facility at Willow, so we would still continue to truck the coal. The fact is, it's just closer to Willow, so we would still use the Willow plant.
Yeah, so they'd be hauling up and then back down.
Yes.
Councillor Hutt?
Yeah, just a couple more things. I'd like to thank CONUMA for their contribution to the Willem Lake dock. I've been able to use it a couple times now, and I think it's fantastic. I think that was an awesome thing that was done between Tumbler Ridge and Chetwynd and yourselves, and just like to thank you for that. I like the point that you made there that where you said you can't make enough of it right now. Like that is an awesome thing in a coal mining community, to hear words being said. And I'd also like to say again, thank you again for not going the camp route in Tumbler Ridge. It's important for the community to build and develop. Our housing market has dramatically changed in the last 20 years after the houses sold for $25,000 and $50,000. And the fact that you guys didn't come in and put a camp, and you're still fighting to not put a camp in. I know it's easy to put a camp in, but it doesn't help the community at all. And I just, again, every time you come in, I want to thank you guys for not putting the camp in and continuing to support the community. I think that's very commendable, and it's a huge thing for me. And one last thing I'd just like to throw at you here. I know you talked about the electric buses. That's kind of a neat idea. But has there ever been any discussions with the BC government about re-electrifying the rail? So our rail used to be electrified. It was the first one ever done in Canada, I believe. And they took it out when the mines closed down. I don't think it's rocket science to go back to that point, besides the engines are different. But has there ever been any discussion about doing that if we're looking to lower our carbon footprint, or any discussions around that with the BC government?
The electrification conversations have been around busing and electrifying Herman as well, getting power to Herman with the government. So with the government, with the incentives that we have in place and the power providers. So on the rail, I will dig into that, and we will get that conversation going.
Okay.
Councillor Majinski?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you very much for coming in. Appreciate all the updates. I just wanted to say a thank you for me personally and a few other businesses around town for how much you've done for the community, especially through COVID. I know it could have been a full-on lockdown, and it would have impacted as a trickle effect to small businesses in our community as well. Mine for sure would have been impacted, so thank you for that. I do have a few small questions, probably not of any importance, but I just wanted to ask about the application to Bull Moose when it was released for caribou conservation. How far along were you in that compared to where you are now with Herman? Was it quite a far advancement, and so you're kind of stepping back of, a year, 18 months type thing, or just to put it in perspective of how much we're kind of
We have a certificate, we have the EAC on that, right?
We have the EAC.
So Sam just mentioned we early this year got the award of the environmental assessment certificate for Herman. And, you know, not to say that that's the, you know, that and a permit are the only thing, there's a bunch of other approvals that are required, but the next major one is the MAPA, the Mines Act Permit Amendment. So the Environmental Assessment Certificate is a major milestone for Herman. East Bull Moose had that already. And you know how long I've been here.
Yeah. Councillor Kirkhalka.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, Gatling Press Council, thanks for coming in and giving an update. It's great to hear the base employers in the area come in and give an update. And just fill us in, like the coal hall and stuff like that. You know, listening to in regards to how you speak about it, I think that Paul's on that thing already, so hats off to you on that. My question halfway is there anything that council can do for you today? Anything you need right now? I know you're going out to permits, I read that you're gonna be working tonight, Sam. But is there anything that we can help at all with regards to?
I think what you have already been doing, both as Tumbler Ridge, both as your own community advocacy and as the broader northern, the name escapes me of the bigger coalition, continuing to show the benefits of timeliness of the approvals. Again, I don't want to say that the government is irresponsible in terms of keeping timelines. It's just that management of such major reviews and major documents requires a lot of smart work, not hard, you know, a lot of work. It requires a lot of smart work, and that's where they really need to, with our input and your pressure, make sure that they really live up to improving their regulatory predictability. I think, Councillor, I think that's keep the support that you're doing. We'll keep living up to our word, but if something comes up in the future, I won't hesitate to give you a call.
I know.
Yeah, just on that, and you already said it, but yeah, if something happens that you guys get into a pickle, I mean, obviously reach out to the mayor. From all of us, you have our support. Definitely have mine, and
Yeah.
I think we can help with this. To me, that's what we're here for.
I'm bumping into you every day. Anyway, eh?
No, thank you for that. That's great to hear. Yeah.
Well, really appreciate you coming in and for the update. And, you know, just a couple comments for me. Or ESG is a very popular topic right now, and I think CONUMA exemplifies it. Really excited about the high school partnership for the kickoff next year. Unfortunately, it was delayed this year, but that's going to be something that's going to set us apart from the region again, with the partnership of CONUMA as well. So I'm really excited about that, as well as the opportunity for the kids. It's absolutely. And as far as your public engagement for the hauling of the coal from PRC and Quintet, have you had a lot of concerns brought forward so far in the process?
I'd have to say no, but this whole process went faster than we envisioned it going to be. We're very grateful for it. We think we have a solid plan. Will there be calls? I don't know. I hope not. That's our goal. But if there are, we will accommodate and do our best to remedy those. But I'm not, Sam, I don't think we've received anything.
Okay.
And the First Nations have provided support letters as well based on the information we provided them.
Excellent. And then you had mentioned it was a quick amendment approval on the pushback at Wolverine. What kind of timeline were you looking at it? When you say quick, that could mean a multiple different times in government. So I'm curious, was it a 1 year or less than a year?
It was a matter of months.
Matter of months? So that's definitely quicker than in the past, I would say.
Well, you know, I think the advantage is it was within our disturbance area. We didn't have to do any more tree clearing. And I think when you start talking about tree clearing, that's a whole different internal amendment. But I think the stars aligned on this one, and we had a solid plan. And it's just trying to get down through the waste fast enough.
Perfect. Yeah, that's excellent. And again, really appreciate your time this evening for coming in, and best in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and our second delegation this evening is the Tumbler Ridge RCMP, Constable David Ribeiro, to present to council. Welcome, David.
Thank you.
No problem. Yeah, absolutely.
Hello there. I think I've met most of you guys already. Haven't met you three, I don't believe. I'm David. I'm a constable here in Tumbler Ridge, and I've only been here for about a year. And I'm currently acting detachment commander until our new commander arrives here in August. So I'll be able to answer any questions that you guys may have, brief you guys on any information that I'm able to divulge without compromising any ongoing investigations that we currently have. So would you guys like to start with a Q&A, or me just going over the resources, or?
Maybe just an update of the resources, and then I'm sure
Okay.
a couple questions will come after.
Okay, so right now we have 3 constables in Tumbler Ridge, myself and 2 other constables. I'm again acting in the detachment commander spot. Still, I'm taking investigations on and reviewing the investigation of the other members. We have 1 recruit coming from Depot, so he's going to be a brand new member coming to Tumbler Ridge, which is actually great news. Because when we get a young member coming from Depot, we can actually mold them to the community needs. Instead of getting a member who has either 5 to 7 years coming from, let's say, Vancouver, Surrey, or something, they get here and they have the big city mentality and they treat people a certain way, right? That doesn't really work in the northern communities. So when a member comes here brand new, we can actually show them community policing, engaging with the skate park, doing school talks, riding the bicycle on the street. And it's very hard to kind of do that with other members who already have been settled in their ways. So, because we're humans like everybody else. So that's great news. This member is going to be arriving, he's going to be graduating on July 17th. He's expected to arrive in Tumbler Ridge, I believe, July 25th or 26th or something like that. But he will probably be reporting for duty on the 30th of July, and I'll be the one training the recruit once he gets here. And that's going to be a part of the recruit. I believe he's 26 years old. He's from the island, and Tumbler Ridge was one of his first top spots leaving Depot. So he wanted to come here, which is very important, especially when somebody goes to a community. You're not being told to go there, right, from Depot. So, and the sergeant, you guys obviously already know who the sergeant is Jamie Moffat. She used to be here in Tumbler Ridge before. She won't be here until August 18th, and that's, I believe, when her moving truck arrives. And then usually you get 2 to 3 days for you to unpack and everything else. And trust me, I've done everything I could to try and get her here earlier. So nothing that we could do. But we're I'm very personally very happy that it's Jamie coming. Usually there's always some type of uncertainty and fear when a new detachment commander is getting promoted to a position. You don't know what direction they want to go in, what if they are somebody who's engaged with community policing or somebody who doesn't believe in community policing, right? We still have that within every police organization. So she's a very community-oriented kind of police officer. So we're going to see nothing but more of an increase of our engagement with the youth and our engagement with the community as well. And that's in regards to our resources right now. And we're ensuring that the members are getting some time off because we are either working or on call. So it's very taxing on our mental health and getting tired of that kind of thing. So we are making sure the members are getting their time off, that they are able to leave the community to just kind of get a refresher kind of thing. Because if we're well rested and happy, our services are a lot better when we're dealing with people, right? And we're dealing with high-risk situations where people already elevated emotions. So we're able to arrive at those situations stress-free, relaxed, to be able to de-escalate instead of already arriving burnt out or anything. So,
Excellent. Okay. Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Member Chan. Excuse me, please. Thank you for coming in, Officer Ribeiro. I had a couple of questions for you. Firstly is, it's kind of a two-parter.
Yep.
Does the detachment monitor social media for our residents' complaints?
So at this time, we do not officially monitor social media. Coming out in July 19th, I'm going to be going to the media relations course. So I'm going to be an official spokesperson for the RCMP from Tumbler Ridge. I'll be at the RCMP here, Port St. John, all our area. when I get that certification and from the RCMP, we'll create our own social media page in Tumbler Ridge, and we are going to be able to officially say that we are monitoring social media. However, one thing is very important that we have to state is that even though we unofficially monitor, because I'll do it myself as well, I will look at certain Facebook group pages in Tumbler Ridge where they're going to complain about certain things, whether it be speeders, whether it's going to be drugs, parties, or anything. We will try and, what's going to be what we're going to be focusing on today, and if we have the time, we are going to be doing that. But we are doing it unofficially, and we just don't want, we want to make sure that people don't get used to, if you post something on Facebook, the police is going to be taking action against that, right? So we're creating that precedence, but we do monitor to ensure that some people, they're just used to venting over Facebook. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's not something that shouldn't be taken seriously. So we do take it seriously when we do see something, but we just want to make sure that it's not something that it's creating that precedence. But yeah.
Follow up?
Thank you very much. And yeah, I have my issue with social media, right? Yeah, people can't, it's not appropriate to engage in action by venting on Facebook, right? So
Correct.
they don't want to create that precedent. But the reason why I mention that is that even on social media, there has been some a rise in complaints over like little petty crimes of people stealing lawn ornaments or anything like that. Like, and can you speak to? I understand you can't speak to open investigations, but can you say if you guys are getting a handle on that, if you're aware of these little things that are going on, and it's more of those like little annoyances. But I mean, after a while, it's almost like there's a little bit of a plague.
Yeah. So in regards to the any type of chronic issues that we're having, I can discuss openly about certain things. We've received very minor theft reports. And when I say by minor, we haven't been getting lots. Most of the reports that we've been getting lately are from whether it be mine sites or exploration sites where somebody left their gear 7 years ago, they come back and then the generator is missing or something like, and it happened in the last 5 years. So we're getting those kinds right now. We're not getting necessarily a lot going on in town that we don't know who the person who committed is. So for instance, we have some type of civil issue occurring in just up top, and we know exactly the parties who are involved. So when we know certain situations, we don't categorize them as a chronic theft issue because we know the parties involved, we know the motives, we know what's going on. But there's nothing brought to our attention that would raise any alarm for us to have what is called a prolific offender that would be, as you stated there, going from place to stealing often and having that same MO of going from house to house. Without a proper official report to us, it's very difficult for us to be able to engage, whether it be in a prolific investigation with Crown and probation, right?
Excellent. Follow up, Council? No? Councilor Kirkhalka?
Yeah, thank you, Worship. Thank you very much for coming in and giving us an update on the amount of members and the new member coming out of depot and obviously the new sergeant. Same thing I asked the previous. Is there anything that we can do for the RCMP besides, like, I'm not sure how much the RCMP are aware of it, or maybe you're not being fairly new here too, that we give golf passes, rec center passes. The RCMP using those?
I'm sadly not a golfer. Every other member is. I'm not one. Maybe I haven't ever tried. Maybe I'll try it once and fall in love. But one thing for sure is we tried to get like an experienced member to come here, right? And there was not a single RCMP experienced member wanting to come to Tumbler Ridge. And right now, it's not necessarily a message sent to the city itself. There's a lot of police officers right now in financial hardship. They just can't move. They just can't financially move. Or they are stuck with a mortgage, or they can't sell, or they have other situations that gets them stuck where they are. And coming to the north, it takes very, there's a very big, like, this mentality that people think when you come up to the north, that you're going to be by yourself, you're going to be fighting 5 people at the same time, bears everywhere, you're fighting a bear on the right and arresting people on the left. They think that way, right? So there's a lot of that going on, and a lot of younger members who want to stay down south, coupled with, right now, the RCMP is struggling to find people to apply to become police officers. As the as we progress through this policing services change, we are changing the organization to how the people need us to police. A lot of people are finding that very difficult to join now because there's a lot of hatred towards police, especially even before we even arrive somewhere, we're already getting that pushback. So we're struggling to find people to apply, which creates now people that there's not enough people to move around. Dawson Creek, Chetwynd, Hudson's Hope, Fort St. John, everyone is struggling up north to be able to find people to move around because there's just not enough. And just to give you an insight on that, there's only 7 members coming from DEPL to the north right now. We were supposed to get about 100 or something like that. There's only 7. And the rest are being sent to other places who are struggling even more than Tumbler Ridge. Like, I find it difficult to believe, even more than Tumbler Ridge. So it's very difficult right now when it comes to this push to try and hire new people and get people to move around. So it's not something towards the community in terms of what the community can provide. It's a beautiful town. I've been here for about a year. My wife works at the hospital. We love it here. People are very, very friendly. The neighbors are friendly. So it's not the community, it's more of the policing resource issue that is now chronic throughout the entire country.
Just a follow-up.
Yeah, don't quite follow. Yeah, I see your point when you talk about shortages and why some members can't move around, whether they own a house somewhere else and you can't sell it. I have a few friends that are RCMP have the same issue.
Yeah.
They can't move anywhere because their house can't sell in the community that they're living in because it's a downswing. So I totally get that. Just to mention a couple things, and it's actually come from our residents, so people have noticed it.
Yeah.
And you talk about the community policing, so bike patrol. People were shocked. I own the grocery store, obviously, and one of the members was out riding to the park lot. People were shocked. I don't know. I've never seen a Tumbler Ridge. I've only been here 16 years. So hats off to you guys. Like, you are definitely getting out there, and people are seeing it. The youth are talking about you guys too. I know you stopped, and I know you did a bike thing down at the community center, water for the kids and stuff. So people are talking about. So hats off to the members that are here right now that are getting so involved in the community. I think that helps you. I think.
Yeah.
You see all the negativity, we see it all in the news or social media. Not everybody agrees with what we all see there either. So myself, and thank you very much for yourself and the other 2 members that are here right now, and the 2 more that will be joining you guys.
Yes, thank you.
Again, on my side, if there's ever something the district can do, reach out to the mayor. If there's something that we're missing that could help recruit more members as other members decide to move on the change. That's why we did the Councillor Halbach for the call passes, the rec center passes.
Yeah.
Was to, obviously get back.
Yeah. And when it comes to that, just for me to touch base on this, this year, 2021, one of our main focus and priority is going to be community engagement. It's to ensure that we are being seen in the light just other than just enforcement, right? Where we're just, pulling people over all the time and doing the breathalyzer and all that kind of stuff. We want to be able to have that interaction with the community and with the youth as well, so they can lose that fear of being able to talk to us, because right now there's a lot of that social media where youth are seeing police through the eyes of the American social media, and our policing styles and for us is completely and utterly different. So you're going to see a lot more of our engagement. We've been doing bike patrols, we've been doing bike rodeos at the elementary school, at a skate park. We're talking to kids, and it's one important thing to see for the kids to see an adult or a police officer wearing a bike helmet while riding the bike, because they see a lot of adults in town riding bikes without a helmet. So the kids are like, well, I'm going to look like a clown if I wear mine, so I'm going to take mine off. But when they see a police officer, they kind of, oh, I guess, yeah, I will wear mine. So we're going to be doing a lot more of that kind of stuff, that kind of engagement in a positive light with the youth and the community, so they can actually see the different style of policing, right? Because we can't just see the American policing style and then think that this is how a police officer is going to pull you over or talk to you and we're going to treat you the same way. Absolutely not. So that's one of our main priorities this year.
Excellent. Councillor Lehman.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for coming in. We were here during the discussion with these highway trucks going to be coming from. So I'm just wondering, I don't mean you necessarily have to pull it over, but it's like the logging truck that zoom through here. Even if, every couple of days you guys just have a car out there just so that, they have the flashing light, but, presence or, you're in their mind, so somebody sees that you guys are out there, maybe the next 10, 12 guys will slow down, because I think it could become a fairly big problem, you know, because they do tend to speed going down that hill, and the fact that, and especially with summer coming on, there's gonna be a lot of kids down there.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
yeah, and we've had, myself included, where I've attended several numerous calls towards the airport, and I wasn't able to catch any of the logging trucks speeding on our radars that we have in our police vehicles, but I will most certainly make sure that we'll do some type of speed enforcement just by Flatbed Creek Falls there where you start, so that one, they see our presence, because seeing our presence is very critical for them to always remember, oh, there's always a cop car nearby. Another thing as well that we can do, I don't know if anyone has seen it before. There are certain communities in the north that we buy this big plywood and then we paint it into a police car. And we put it in communities, and it works, trust me, because I slam on my brakes sometimes when I see it, all right? So it works. So those are things that we can also do as well. I have to get approvals from my side and to see if we're able to do something like that where we can put something, because how it works for those kind of posts where we put it on the highway, next time when people get used to seeing that police car there, guess where we hide? Right behind it. So when they think, it's a cardboard again, and then they go through and we go out. So at that point, it creates that they never know if we're behind that or not behind that, right? So that's one thing that that actually is very, very effective when it comes to speed enforcement and having that visibility, because we create that, are they there or not there this time? Is it a cardboard, or is it a cop going to magically appear behind it and come get me, right? So it's something that we can definitely look into it as well. And we'd be able to put it on all three corners. People love seeing that kind of stuff when they drive into town, laugh, take photos and all kinds of stuff. But every driver, every time they see it, they won't know if there's going to be a cop behind it or not. So it's something that we can look into it for sure.
Thank you.
Excellent. Councillor Howell.
Thanks for coming in, David. How long have you guys been down to 3 members?
We've been down to 3 members now for, I would say, 2 months. 2 months.
Okay. And so fully staffed in Tumbler is a sergeant and 4 members?
4 constables, correct, yes.
So who would we be able to contact? Is there who oversees the Tumbler Ridge department here? Is there somebody that we are able to, as a council, contact to say, we understand that numbers are low, but it's coming from more than just the RCMP. It's actually coming from mayor and council.
Mm-hmm.
If we reach, I always think that we swing a big hammer. That if we reach out to somebody and say, the guys that we have locally are being overworked,
Mm-hmm.
they don't have any time with their wife and kids, they're going to hate Tumbler Ridge if we continue to drive them like this. Who can we reach out to at least send a letter to say that enough is enough? 2 months is way too long for us to be in this situation. Who is the person that we would reach out to?
It would be the North District Commanding Officer in Prince George, where you guys would contact them. However, honestly speaking, there's zero that can be done because we can't create members out of thin air, right? Tumbler Ridge experienced something that is extremely rare. We've had the sergeant that was scheduled to leave, and we had 2 members that promoted. So when a member promotes, the RCMP is unable to hold them back, prevent them from that promotion. So usually this kind of situation doesn't transpire the way it did. It was very unique in having 2 members promoting at the same time, the sergeant leaving. Usually everyone is leaving and arriving staggering, so you're always having at least 1 member and 3 other members, so 4, total of 4. There's always just missing 1 kind of thing. When it comes to the shortage that we've had here, like I explained, it is not something out of the ordinary or unusual where we would say, I have 10 years experience within the RCMP. I've done several places, and I've seen places where there were only 2 members full-time, and there's just never anybody that comes in unless relief is coming to give them vacation time, right? So I've seen certain locations that are unacceptable. It doesn't make our situation here any better, obviously, just to prove there's something else worse out there. Absolutely not. But at the end of the day, with this kind of scenario, there's not much that can be done because we can't speed up what the RCMP is able to provide, whether it be with manpower or even with other members who are experienced wanting to come to Tumbler Ridge. And this kind of thing, we plan it a lot better, the RCMP, so that it doesn't happen. But even now, I've been able to request and receive numerous relief members. So although there's only 3 of us here, I've had already 3 different officers that come to Tumbler Ridge to assist us. One of them helped us in the bike rodeo with the unmarked police vehicle. So he was there showing the kids the unmarked vehicle and whatnot. He was patrolling, pulling people over and whatnot. So I've been getting lots of extra people to come and assist us. And they usually come for about 7 days every 3 weeks. So we're making sure that we have that 4th officer in town while we're at the same time investigating priority cases and still making that community engagement. And again, what I believe is extremely important, so does the RCMP now, thankfully, is the mental health of the members to ensure that they are getting that time off and not the time off where they are on call. Because when you're on call, you're not off. We are not off when we are on call. And so I am ensuring, I'm tracking all of our times to ensure that the members are getting that time with their families to recharge. But with COVID, has definitely thrown a big wrench in everyone's gears, because even in our call volume and type of calls that we're dealing with at this moment, these are typical calls that we get in the middle of winter, the cabin fever kind of calls, the domestics, the fights, the people snapping for no reason. Those are the kind of stuff we get in the middle of winter. So COVID is affecting not only the general public, but people in first responders and everyone, you guys as well. So we're also dealing with that as well as members. And I'm ensuring that we're all getting that time off for that.
Excellent. Yeah, that's really important. And I think all of us here at Council are concerned about you being so short-staffed at the moment. And so I'm happy to hear that you're adapting, I guess you could say. Yeah. Any other comments, Councillor Norbury?
Just one last thing, more of like an information share. If the RCMP is looking to recruit members to the north, we have an economic development office, we have a geopark, but we are very big about promoting our community to outside people, and one of the big things we're doing is we're trying to promote a way of life up here. And I think that's absolutely could be useful for the RCMP. Obviously, that's more of a, your Northern District Commander PG bring up, but I wouldn't be surprised if, Fort St. John, I'm sure, has similar things to aid in recruitment to these areas, because, yeah, they may think, they're fighting bears with one hand and a criminal in the other, but they should also know, like, these communities up here, especially Tumbler Ridge, just a great place to live. And they're serene, they're quiet.
I completely and utterly agree. In regards to work-life balance, this is a perfect place to be. Perfect place. I can't speak highly enough of how perfect it is, because we have the time to actually investigate our cases, and we have the time to go home and not be burnt out at the end of the day in terms of responding to 15 calls for service, right? So beautiful and amazing place for that. One of the issues that we run as an organization is that when a member when someone applies to become a police officer, you never know where you're going to end up. So it's not necessarily a specific area being advertised or being promoted as healthy and best. The member a civilian may apply and think, like, I definitely want Tumbler. But your chances of getting Tumbler are very minimal, because under contract, when you go to depot, you are signing, sadly, to go anywhere in Canada, whatever it is needed. So that is the fear right now. That's one of the things that we're actually, the RCMP is slowly changing for the better, but not quick enough in regards to get the younger kids today who are valuing more their happiness and their mental health over a career. They don't want to trade off, like, I'll forget my family and friends for a job. They don't want to do that anymore. They want to be able to I want to go to Tumbler. I want to go to Dawson. Why can't a Tumbler Ridge citizen apply and come back to Tumbler? That's something that it's at a federal level that has to change, and that's one of the issues that we have, where people look at it and go, like, do I want to go to Northwest Territories? Do I want to go to Northern Manitoba, and I'm from Tumbler, right? And you're thousands of miles away from your family. So that's one of the issues. So it's not necessarily just the targeted marketing for a specific location, because I have several buddies that I try to sell them Tumbler Ridge all the time, but they are not releasable because in the RCMP we have lockdown periods. For me, I'm locked in Tumbler Ridge for a minimum of 4 years. After 4 years, I have to leave. It's not a choice. I can make a business case for me to stay an extra 5th year. What if I really want to stay in Tumbler Ridge for 10 to 20 years? I can't. The federal government will not allow me to. But I can in Dawson Creek. What's the difference? So it could be, but Mackenzie is the same way, right? So those are things that perhaps something that you guys can try and have a conversation about as to change the designation of Tumbler Ridge. But that is something that is done at a federal level. Here, the only issue is like when members are looking at these spots, it's called a limited duration post. They're seeing that as a very, very brief, short period of their lives. And they're like, I got kids going to high school, moving kids all the time. So those are all kinds of stuff that comes to their minds, right? But they go to Dawson, they can stay there 10 to 15 years. Here, you can't. So it creates another kind of consideration to take, not just I'm going to be happy there, but my wife needs to find a new job, or my husband, or kids, and whatnot. So maybe that's something that can be discussed, but that's at the federal and the provincial level.
Councillor Howell?
Yeah, that's an interesting one here. So correct me if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure all the houses in Tumbler Ridge are supplied to the RCMP members.
Federally owned, correct.
Here. So, and this is kind of just back to council, but the RCMP can do it. How would we be able to incentivize Northern Health to do it? If it can be done for one group within the federal government, why couldn't we do something within our provincial government for nursing and doctors? So thanks again. I really appreciate you coming in.
Thank you. And I just had one other topic I wanted to discuss there, the redundancy during the connectivity blackout. I understood that the RCMP was kind of in a bit of a blackout as far as communication goes. I'm just wondering how you've been able to adapt in that situation.
Okay. So during the internet and cell phone outage, I woke up that morning at about 6:30 or somewhere around there, and I immediately noticed that my phone was off, but no cell service like everybody else noticed. As a detachment commander, it's my responsibility to ensure the policing services are not disrupted and that ensuring that people can still reach out to us. At that point, I've reached out to dispatch, and I went to every single police officer's residence, and I asked them to keep their radios on so that if a call comes in, we're able to respond. At that point, we ensure that by 8 a.m., by 7:30, I was physically at the detachment, just in case if somebody needs police and the phone doesn't work, the first place they're going to go to is the station, right? So we needed to ensure there was somebody physically present at the police station. After I was there physically, I was able to get our secretary to come and take my place so that we can ensure that we have officers to be able to respond. We began doing roving patrols in town just to ensure that people could see our vehicles. I also briefed our senior managements in Prince George and in Chetwynd. We have our district commander, which is in Chetwynd. He oversees Tumbler Ridge, Chetwynd, Dawson, and Fort St. John. I briefed him as well. It didn't meet our threshold for a public emergency for us to issue radio warnings or go door to door and that kind of stuff. It was an inconvenience for us to have because it made it a lot more difficult for people to ask for help. But by 8:30 we were able to. By 8 I was there. By 8:30 we had full on legs on the ground and ensuring that services were not disrupted. We still responded to several calls during that outage. We continued our investigations as usual. And we assisted our partners as well, Northern Health. We assisted them in ensuring that they were also on the same page as well to be able to provide services undisrupted. So,
Okay, perfect. So moving forward, I think it was a learning lesson for all of us, and I'm just wondering if the RCMP have made any changes as far as their communication goes in case of another outage like that.
So one thing that I've noticed on our side is that we didn't have the tactical interagency planning, which means that how do I know that every single police officer knows where the fire chief lives physically? Because if something happens, I need to be able to tell Officer B, go get the fire chief. We can't call him. go get him right now. We can try through dispatch, but if he doesn't have his radio on, they're no one's going to get him, right? So this type of tactical response plan is basically, it's like it's a 3-pager. One page is police, and you have our names and our addresses and everything that is required in terms of that kind of scenario. The second one is fire. You have the fire chief, the second in command, and the key people for us to be able to go get. If there's a house fire, if I'm driving around, there's a house fire, I need to know where to go get the help, right? So the third page would be Northern Health, doctors, nurses, and whatnot. So that's something that on our side, after us assisting Northern Health and dealing as well with the fire department, with Mike at the fire department, because I believe Dustin was away that morning. We saw that we were lacking in that tactical response plan, which has to be extremely simple. It's not a BCP where you have 700 pages, of you move this pen, you do this. There's so many info that people are not going to be reading that in a panic. You need something very brief. So we've been working on that now, especially with Northern Health as well. Now we know where the X-ray tech lives specifically. We know where the lab tech, where the nurses are. We know where the travel nurse's apartment is, So those are the kind of, or the doctors, those are the kind of things for that kind of situation. We shouldn't be scrambling to figure out who lives where. We need to be able to have that information pronto in that event. So that's something within the RCMP side of things. We have already began working on that, and we are about 80% completed in terms of ensuring that we have a proper quick response tactical plan for those kind of scenarios.
Perfect. Any other questions, Council? Okay, thank you very much for coming in, David. Really appreciate your time this evening.
I just need your signature on something. Okay. This here is just the acknowledgement of consultation, the presentation that I made. And 2, this year, like I said, we're going to be focusing on community relations, ensuring positive engagement with community members and the youths. We're going to try the youth very, very hard. And also traffic safety. That's our second highest priority goal, to ensure that, stop signs, speeds, and all that kind of stuff, which is going to be our high priority. And these priorities are all measured in quotas, okay? Whether it be traffic tickets, whether it be a full ticket or just a warning. So we do measure them. It's not simply me letting the members know, hey, just go out there and do something. I actually have to be able to, I'm actually held accountable for, are we actually doing something? Or are we just parking over there and going on Facebook all day long, right? So we are actually being measured, right? So, and those are the 2 main priorities that we have, along with the rest that we usually do, the drugs and prolific offenders and that kind of stuff. So I just need you to sign, and that should be good. Can I approach?
Please. Yeah.
It's your ticket. Sorry, yeah, you're right. Everything else. The what? A banana seat? What is a banana seat?
On the bike?
Oh, I'm the one riding the bike. You're not getting a banana seat for the bike.
Right on. Thanks again, David. I really appreciate it.
And anytime you guys have a meeting, just make sure we'll come over and brief on anything.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great night.
You too.
Bananas. Oh, you were right. All right. Moving on to consent agenda. Recommendation, please. Councilor Norbury.
That all items in the June 14th, 2021 consent agenda be moved.
Seconder, Councilor Lehman. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Any items council would like to lift from the consent agenda? Okay. Moving on to discussion items, 8.1. Northern Health incentives for attraction and retention of healthcare professionals. Where would council like to start? Councilor Norbury.
Hey, Mayor Bertrand. So I'll just start with a couple. I'll start with one, and then we can open it up, because I have a couple ideas. But it's definitely turning into a bit of a trend that we're seeing. I don't think it's a Tumblr trend. I think it's a provincial line trend. I think incentives are just the biggest thing we need to look at. One idea that I had, that I'm pulling a little bit from the teachers union, is what about like a payment per year incentives program, like student loan forgiveness, right? So I know, like at least with my wife, every year that she commits to, or after 5 years of being committed to a certain location teaching, you get a certain amount of loans forgiven, right? That's something that we can potentially be doing, to attract people.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Kirkowka?
Yeah, thank you, Worship. So one thing we did discuss at the task force meeting, or asked Northern Health about, was how they have the one employee that they'll put on a contract, or their contracts are, as long as they come from without being from the Northern Health area, so new student coming out of college, or somebody moving from like Coastal Health or Fraser, if there's no other nurse already signed on that contract, that nurse would get $10,000 for a 3-year contract. And then if they don't stay the full 3 years because they're not hammered to the 3 years, they have to pay back a portion. That's something this council can look at. Instead of being the 10 grand, it's $5,000 a year for a 3-year contract. Don't hold it that they can't come from our local area. And not for one. Maybe we need to add 2. If they're doing 1, we add 2 more. I mean, no disrespect to Dawes Creek or any other hospital here or office that has the nurses in it. But some people want to move here, but they just financially can't do it. And to me, if that's what we need to do, I'm all on that. Like, we got to do something. We have residents literally leaving our community. Like, I don't know who the one person is, but I heard it today. They've lived in Tumbler Ridge for 35 years, or they're now houses for sale. We have another person that's advertised on Facebook, social media, I shouldn't say which one, that she's leaving our community on June 21st or July 21st, and it all has to do with no nurses in our clinic. So this is to me, we said it was number one priority when we were first elected, and I think we really need to do that. I mean, our last discussion with Northern Health was not on live stream, so people couldn't watch it. But we as council talked around, and it was hard to hear from some councilors weren't sure if that's the way we should go by pulling up some extra cash to hopefully get an agency nurse on board. But to me, it sounds by the email that we received today from Northern Health, or from our CAO from Northern Health, that there is a possibility that, well, tonight we're not on diversion. Possibly we may be on diversion tomorrow night, but it looks like we have an agency nurse that's going to be signed on starting June 16th. To me, that's temporary. So in the task force, I asked Jen to join the meeting just by the end that she came in. And it was so that instead of Northern Health thinking they could have the contract company that they're using today for the $10,000, that she felt, know who Jen is and can ship her the contracts, and counselor and staff to look through it. At this point, it has not come to Ms. Thompson. People at Northern Health that Melanie needs to get it from her way at holidays or whatever, but that's still forthcoming. My understanding from Northern Health and how their contract reads. I mean, to me, if we were to do something like that idea, it would have to be a contract through the district to Northern Health and so on. Like, obviously, we can't hire our own nurses and not have a position for them to work in. But whether it's like Councilor already said in regards to tuition amount or student loans, something. But I mean, like, I don't know if staff has any other ideas, but we can throw ideas out here all night and still not come to a conclusion what we want to do. The last meeting we discussed about housing, and you mentioned it today. Well, if the RCMP, the federal government, can buy houses for the RCMP in Tumbler Ridge and have them here so that they don't, it's a single member, they pay no rent. If they come with a spouse or children, they do a certain proportion they have to pay. To me, it means the same thing. Is the Ridge government going to be willing to buy it? I don't see it. I mean, Dawes Creek right now has has a house or a condo or a duplex, but they just purchased another one, is what we heard at the Northern Health meeting on Friday. So we're not the only municipality that's looking at buying or building residents to house, to me, medical professionals. So to me, it's not just doctors and nurses, but to me, we also talked about our teachers. There was a downside in our teachers. Maybe now they're in good shape. It could be used by all.
Councillor Majinski?
Thank you, Bertrand. We're talking a lot about Northern Health and how we can help them out. I wonder if we should also just have a delegation come in from chief of staff or somebody from the health center. Have the health center doctors, whoever come in and have a candid talk with us as well. Because maybe we don't know the full story. Maybe there's some other outlying issues and that health isn't aware of. Maybe they should be brought forward so that we can discuss them further. So maybe we can help in other ways. And I think personally there are other concerns that aren't being discussed and they should be fleshed out.
Yeah, we do have pretty good representation on the task force as far as Northern Health goes, as well as some employees over at the medical center. Do you think we have good representation there, Councillor?
Yeah, like we did have chief of staff, which was Dr. Helm, who's now resigned as chief of staff. I haven't reached out to the interim chief of staff yet, but we do get information. I mean, we had Northern Health here as a delegation a week ago, 2 weeks ago. We had lots of opportunities to ask questions there. I mean, they even said it. We asked on their exit interviews, and one of them it wasn't the top priority, but work-life balance was an issue. And it always has been, and that's something to me that we could change. Instead of Northern Health worrying about, 3 full-time positions. So maybe Councillor Lima can remember it all. I mean, the minutes have not been approved by the committee yet, but it was discussed by Northern Health how they have, I think it was 3 full-time at this point. They have 1 filled position at this point. And then they have the person that's on maternity that will eventually come to our community, but they're also adding, instead of a 0.5, another 0.8. So it looks like they're going after 4 full-time nurse positions, plus the maternity lady that's already been hired by Northern Health to oversee the clinic. So instead of being 3, they're looking at adding that 4. So to me, I think they're realizing, they say it wasn't #1 in their delegation, but I think like work-life balance is very high on why nurses possibly work.
Councillor?
Thank you. Yeah, and they did mention that 0.8 was not working for them in their layout of how they do their staffing schedule. That's why they went to the additional individual. But even with the exit interviews, I don't think everything is being spoken about or added in from some individual that left the community that should have. And I think there has to be a bit more of an investigation of that person.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Lehman?
Thank you, Mayor. I think the biggest part of the problem is the same as what the RCMP is going through. They don't have enough nurses, same as they don't have enough police officers. There's vacancies all over BC. And for some reason, people just don't want to get into nursing, or they haven't been. So I think that needs to be addressed so that you actually get people going back into nursing so that you have a bigger pool to draw from. And the other thing is, you have, I think, more and more nurses going to the agency nursing route, because then they can pick their schedule. If you want to work a month, you go work a month, then you take 2 months off. So, you talk about work-life balance. When you have that capability of doing whatever you want, when you want, and where you want, what are you going to do?
Yeah, I tend to agree, and also there is that regional district scholarship program. It's been quite successful as far as uptake goes. It's been, over the last 3 years, 31 scholarships given out to nurses, with a caveat to return to the regional district for 2 years of service. So I mean, there is, in the future is looking good, but in the meantime, we do have a gap in service, I think, and bodies. Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. First off, I mean, I want to respond to Councillor DePelka's idea of the 5,000 euros over 3 years. That's a cleaner option, I think, in my opinion, versus like a loan forgiveness, because it appeals to a wider base. So I think that's absolutely something that we should be doing. So that sort of handles our mid-short-term needs. I think if we look long-term, I think maybe we should be looking at a potential scholarship option to complement what the PRIORITES do. We could potentially have a caveat to come back to Tumbler Ridge, or the Tumbler Ridge first and the north if available. If not, good luck. Because we need to be funneling, everybody should be funneling people into these education programs. And that's to lead into to build on that, go to UBCM, maybe we should be talking to the education minister about that. How can we affect change with them to, funnel people in, right? Like, there's something they can be doing there. Like what I'm suggesting with the loan forgiveness program, that's done through, the teachers. I don't know if it's done through the ministry or if it's done through the teachers union, but there's a precedent for that. But I think we should also be visiting nursing schools to, like during their trade shows or dropping off literature for Tumbler Ridge so that we can try and attract those people that are already in the nursing programs to come to Tumbler Ridge, because municipalities are already doing it. And if we aren't doing that, well then now we're a step behind all those communities that are. Like I think we do have a lot more to offer than some people can. So, it's almost like when we go down to UBCM, we put up a tent. Let's head down, someone from the district, someone from the Ridge, eventually someone from Northern Health, we just promote Tumbler Ridge.
Yeah, I kind of like that idea, actually. A trip down to UBCM would be probably worthwhile with a few of those visitor guides, I'm sure. Councillor Majinski.
Do we have a number of how many people have been employed at our health center as nurses, as well as how many agency nurses we've had in the last 2 years on a cycling basis?
I'm sure we can get that info. I don't have it now, no. Councillor Hall?
So, we have the DTR incentive, like the recreation passes, and that was a good first step, and it's something that we could do that wasn't very costly, and we felt all comfortable with it. We're talking about two other things here. I don't think what Councillor Norbury was saying, loan forgiveness, is a bad idea either. I think that, as well as the retention bonus, as I think is what Councillor Ribeiro was referring to. The beauty of the retention bonus is that we can offer it to the person who's here right now as well. It's kind of, we're so desperate for nurses right now that we're willing to pay extra money right now. The person who's here doing it should also get a bonus as well. So you could enter into a retention bonus for the nurse that's here right now and make it attractive. Make it $12,000 a year, $1,000 a month. As soon as you stay for your year, you get that extra $12,000 from the DTR. To me, when we say that this is our #1 priority, put your money where your mouth is, right? And I just try it. What do we got to lose by just trying it? That we go to the Northern Health and say the DTR is prepared to provide retention bonuses of this amount, and we're also prepared to do loan forgiveness amount of up to $25,000. But again, it has to go from us talking about it to actually taking the step and trying it. Maybe we get it wrong, maybe it's too much money, maybe it's not enough money. But if we don't actually put something down tonight that we are going to bring to our next meeting that we're going to vote on, what's the point continuing to talk about it? Take a stand, try it, and see where we go. If we screw up, who cares? At least we tried. Right?
Ms. Thompson, do you see any legalities in this type of an incentive?
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. So while we're talking about it, the district has the ability of a natural person power. It's one of the fundamental powers you have. We haven't sought specific legal advice on it, but as a natural person, if you feel that it is something that would benefit the community, as a natural person, you would have that ability.
Okay, perfect. Councillor Lehman, then Majinski.
And that's fine. The only problem is with that collective agreement again. We have to be careful because a lot of these union agreements, if you give it to one person here, then how come that person doesn't get it? So it's kind of a touchy subject, but I think there has to be a way around it, but I'm just not sure how that is. But I know they keep bringing it up, like, you can't give the nurse over there extra money when you're not giving it to that nurse in Chetland or somewhere else because they're under that same collective agreement. So we have to be careful of that. But there's got to be a way that we're able to do it. We just have to figure it out.
Councillor Krokowka, then Majinski, then Howe.
Thank you, Your Worship. So one of and Councilor Newman was heading down the road, and I believe Ms. Thompson was there too. because we didn't talk about it at the emergency meeting or the special meeting. And we're giving it to the agency nurse, and we gotta give something to, and there was a motion passed to give something to the nurse that's actually our local nurse that's working 5 days a week, as much as she can, or whatever. And because they're collective agreement, she cannot do it. They can't do it at all. We try, like, Melanie tried to explain it a bit there, but I'll be honest with you, I thought to me that's, whatever. But the other problem that was, what came up with what Councilor Lehman was saying, is the collective agreement. It's not, now it's the nurses, then what about the lab tech, the x-ray techs, all this, right? So that's why I was hoping that, I mean, I honestly thought on the Friday when we had our meeting that, like, Melanie pretty much had this, the agreement they used today for the one nurse that they bring from not the Northern Health region would have been to Ms. Thompson sooner, that we maybe would have been able to have that sent to us via email. We would have been able to read through it and see how it worked and the legalities of doing something like this. Because I think that's where you get out of that collective agreement with the lab and x-ray techs and all them, is you're following that agreement that Northern Health already has. We're just doing it different. The clause they have in there that says cannot be from the Northern Health region, you have to be from outside the Northern Health region. Scratch that one. If the nurse that's over there today is already under agreement, she probably wouldn't qualify. Of course, she's already signed her agreement with Northern Health, but anybody else coming in would. So maybe she would leave and then come back. That would be her choice. That's how I understood from Melanie when I asked those questions, because I mean, we knew it was coming up in our PNP, and I wanted to get the information forward to council so that we could make motions tonight to put money where your mouth is. And I'm prepared to do that, but I also think in fairness to the nurse that we have in town, but also to staff, is waiting for Melanie to supply that contract to make sure that when we do a motion to give funds, whether it's the incentive bonus for the 3-year contract, plus their loan forgiveness and stuff like that, then it fits within the contract that Northern Health already has, because we can't go out and hire nurses because then we have no place to put it. That's my understanding of it. Unless we went with a private clinic and Ms. Thompson would have to take on a nurse. So I understand where Councilor Howell's coming from. I think, like, I want to do something, but I think we need that information, and I know Ms. Thompson reached out again today, and that's what we're doing.
Okay, Councilor Majinski.
Thank you, Mayor Burkham. If we do decide on a number or an idea that goes forward, I'm okay with that, but personally, I don't think incentives are going to get us any further ahead, because they're not binding. They can't stricken somebody to stay here and continue to work. If they want to break that contract, they can. So then 6 months down the road, we'll be in the same spot.
Possibly.
You can't lock somebody into a contract for 3 years and say you can get a bonus at the end.
No, it would be-
You can break that contract at any time.
It would be yearly, yeah.
So
And they wouldn't have to wait after the contract.
exactly, they're just not going to get their bonus, but they're not going to be locked in for that time. So that's where I bring up the point that there will be another issue with the high turnover rate.
100%.
So I don't think these $1,000 of bonuses or $10,000, like, if you want to have somebody stay here for 4 years and have it in a contract, the best way to do that is to pay for all the schooling. 40 grand, 50 grand for nursing schooling. Then you might have somebody stick around for their 4-year term, right?
Yep. Councilor Howell, then Norberg.
So I completely disagree with you, Councilor Brzezinski. I think that that's the whole intention of a retention program. It works for some of the coal mines, it works in the oil sands. You know that you don't get your bonus if you don't stick around till the 1-year date. You're correct, they may leave after that, but that is the incentive to try to keep them here rather than jump ship. If we knew that there's an issue, it gives us a bit more time maybe to do something with it. But I gotta be honest with you, I'm honestly totally fed up with Northern Health. I sat on the board with them and I listened to their topics. We got the same stuff that you guys are getting now. You can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do that. Northern Health is out to look for an entire region, not Tumbler Ridge. We are here to look at the Tumbler Ridge. And for me, I do not see why we cannot. It'd be nice to do it through Northern Health so that we know the name of the employee and it's easy to give the money through them and they can give it to the employee. But if we can't do it through Northern Health, why can't we do it ourselves? Why can't we know that they finally got somebody, the nurse comes in, we have like the welcome wagon thing we were gonna do for doctors. They come in and we say, thank you, welcome to Tumbler Ridge. Here's the benefits that the district of Tumbler Ridge is gonna give you for coming here. we are gonna give you $12,000 a year for every year that you stay in Tumbler Ridge. And be it done with Northern Health. We don't need to involve Northern Health on it. There's, as far as I know, there's absolutely nothing saying that we can't do it. And if we try it, and we find out that, oh no, you can't do that, then we've learned something from it. But what's the worst that's gonna happen? What's Northern Health gonna sue us or take us to court? Fill your boots. Maybe CBC should pick that up and realize how bad it actually is up here, that we're going on diversion in this community. We're trying to build a tourism destination. I'm terrified to tell people to come here. Don't go hiking, don't go out in the woods. You fall down and break your ankle. Yeah, hopefully you can get your way to Fort St. John on your own when there's nobody to call out on a Saturday or Sunday to get you there. To me, why can't we? Why can't we just do something like that? You walk through the door as the new nurse, here you go. Here's your incentive package. Why does it have to be through Northern Health? If they're not gonna get on board with us, who cares? Move on.
Yeah, there needs to be some kind of an agreement somewhere. Councillor Norbury, then Majinski.
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. I want to talk to. Now, Councilor Majinski does absolutely have a point, and incentives only go so far. You know, if you speak with nurses in this area, you know, I heard of an agency nurse that came here for 16 days and made $15,000. You know, a friend of mine working in the region, you know, makes, you know, $30,000 a month because of the amount of overtime, right? Like, yeah, incentives work, but there's a point in time when you're working 24 hours at a time, you know, the incentives just don't matter because you're already banking, you know, 30 grand this month, right? So there is validity to a point in that incentivize only go so far. You know, and like, you know, Councillor, how you're bringing up, if we just give it to them, well, if somebody's already here and we give them 12 grand, we just threw 12 grand down the drain because it has to, we need to be on the advertising end. We need to see that as the incentive coming here. If we just give it, then, you know, we're not getting the bang for our buck, so to speak, right? I mean, I understand, like, let's use what we have in our community. We do have resources, we have money, right? We can do that, but we have to be, I think whatever we're deciding to do, we have to almost be surgical. You know what I mean? Like, we have to thread the needle, and we do have to have an agreement with our health authority to find out what we can or can't do, because, you know, if we're just pounding this down with a hammer, we could cause unintended negatives behind that, right? Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Majinski, then Kirkowka.
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. If I may, Councillor Howe, can I reiterate what you said about you're fed up with Northern Health? What about the staff, the employees? If they're fed up, they're gonna leave, right? So even if you do give them money and an incentive to stick around, 1 year, 6 months, if they get a bonus out of it, do you think they're gonna stick around if they're fed up? Guaranteed they won't. They'll be like, no, I'll take my chances elsewhere and just make my regular wage and make good money doing it elsewhere. So they're not gonna stick around and sue and get angry and frustrated with whatever their reasoning may be. I think we have to dig deeper into this. And I'm in support of some type of incentive, but I don't think that's the be-all, end-all. It's a Band-Aid.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I'm hesitant on the incentive because I don't have a lot of faith in the company that is employing our doctors and nurses over there. So, you know, it would be great to come to Tumbler Ridge, to live in Tumbler Ridge, look at the incentive that the district is giving you, but oh my goodness, the employer is driving me crazy, or whatever it might be. I don't have a lot of faith in that at the moment. Councillor Kirkowka.
Yeah, thank you, Worship. I think you guys all hit it. You know what? I don't know how it works. I don't understand it at all. I don't even know if it's out there. I'm not even sure if it's legally allowed to be done. I mean, you know, I'm not saying supportive of Northern Health and hats off to what they're doing. I mean, definitely hats off to the staff that are actually working over there, have stayed in Tumbler Ridge to help this community. But, you know, maybe it's time to hire an outsider through the district of Tumbler Ridge to, I mean, I don't know. To me, Northern Health has to agree with it. And it's their employees that don't work for the district of Tumbler Ridge. But maybe an overview needs to be done to see where the errors are. I mean, I do believe Councillor Majinski, right? Work-life balance is definitely one of them. But to me, if Northern Health is doing a 3-year contract with one employee that's not from the region, they get an extra $10,000 when they sign on. If they don't spend the whole 3 years here, they leave after 2.5 years and they pay back percentage. Not saying that we can't do the same thing, and maybe instead of doing it for 2 people, we have to do it for 3. Because they're talking about the 4th. They want it, then they get a work-life balance. We've just made a work-life balance. Because Northern Health, the employer can't do that. You know, we talk about, you know, reaching out and everything else. Your worship, no disrespect, but yeah, we did a news article in the newspaper. You got a radio thing coming up. Maybe it's time the mayor should reach out to the health minister, the deputy health minister, global news. I mean, we had an ambulance, somebody had to wait for like 2 hours in downtown Vancouver, Richmond, another lady 5 hours. It makes global news. The Minister of Health comes right out at like 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night apologizing. We've had to ask our residents, don't do anything. Please don't get hurt anything. Because you're going to have to either go by ambulance to Dawes Creek or Fort St. John or drive yourself. I mean, wow, like we're preaching for people to come to Tumbler Ridge. Come. We got the geopark. We got all this. But please don't hurt yourself. Because to me, it looks bad on us. Right? Like it's like to me, I think we as a council need to start reaching out to ministers of health, the deputy minister, his staffing. Like I get that the Northern Health oversees Tumbler Ridge, but the Northern Health is overseen by the minister. I don't think maybe we need to start hammering. To me, I'm a new member of Tumbler Ridge, 16 years. When I hear we have residents that have been in this community for 35 years, leaving our community because they don't have faith that if something happens to one of them, they can go to emergency at 9 o'clock at night. That is very, very scary. This town was advertised as a retirement town, and to me, any senior here, I know of 2 for sure that are leaving, there's probably more. And to me, that's been caused by Northern Health not being able to fulfill medicals. And I get it, there's shortages everywhere. How much have they been reaching out to the colleges? Like, it just seems weird. I mean, I don't know what counselor I talked to. It was Counselor Lehman. We had 5 agency nurses up here thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that's why they're going to the agencies, because they get the month off or 2 weeks off. So, you know, maybe we need to do it for more people, but to me, I think we need more clarity information from Northern Health on what we can do. You know, I don't want to put Ms. Thompson out there, but I mean, we're going to put motion on the floor to ask you to go do something. But to me, your hands could be tied. And that's why I was really hoping this Melanie would have had this contract. Because maybe we can't even do that. We have to do something like Councillor Howe said. Maybe we need to go and ask the Minister of Health to say we need an exemption, Tumbler Ridge. Because that's what this municipality wants to do. We want to give our nurses, or whatever we're short, this amount of money, plus their loan forgiveness. Right? Maybe that's what we need to do.
It's possible.
Like, no disrespect to the Peace region, but I'm sorry. I can't even imagine a night, you know, somebody ever has a heart attack.
It's stressful times right now. I couldn't agree more. Councillor Norbury, then Howe.
Remember, I fully support everything you have to say, Councilor Houghton. Really hit the nail on the head. You know, Councilor Medinsky brought up scholarships. You know, I was also on a similar page as yourself about scholarships. That, you know, the more I thought about it, I did see some pitfalls to that. In it's a long time for a nurse to go to school and things change, right? You meet your significant other, you're living down in Vancouver, you don't want to split up. You know, we could be creating these situations where we're not going to go after somebody because they met a love of their life in Burnaby and they don't want to come back. Like, that'll put us in these situations. Whereas, what we're talking about with the, matching what Northern Health does, I think is a good start of $10,000 over 2 years. We get immediate return on our investment versus, a potential. Right? Like, I really love the idea of sending people to school to help the industry, but I think we also do need to be smart with the funds that we're using. And this is we actually get return on our investment versus a maybe. So if we do a scholarship, what if the position isn't open, right? So, and how does that play with Northern Health? And well, Tumbler Ridge said that I'd have a job when I got out, or we might be putting Northern Health in a position where they have to take somebody who skated by on 51% versus the 91%er that they're targeting, right? Like, I like the idea, but I think we just get a better bang for a buck with targeted incentives.
Councillor Lehman? Sorry, Councillor Howe, then Lehman?
Okay, just so I'm clear on this, Councilor McCook has talked about it a few times, is Northern Health offers people that will move from somewhere within Northern Health, anywhere outside of Northern Health, to come to anywhere in Northern Health, $10,000 for 3 years.
That's one of their incentive programs, yes. Councillor Kirkhope.
It's just for Tumbler.
Just for time.
Just for Tumbler. That's what they talked about in the delegation. It's just for Tumbler.
Okay.
No, it's Northern Health wide, I'm pretty sure.
She said in the delegation that it was just Tumbler Ridge they have a position in Tumbler Ridge. They come from outside the region. There used to be 15,000, but now it's 10,000, but only for Tumbler Ridge and only one nurse.
That'll need to be confirmed, because I believe it is for all of Northern Health.
It is regional, but there's one for Tumblr.
That's correct, yes. Councillor.
Okay, so right there, that seems really strange to me that they would offer it to one nurse and then the next nurse that comes in doesn't get that.
Each municipality only gets one incentive nurse.
Wow. So,
And it couldn't happen to somebody that's already here.
okay, so Northern Health themselves thinks that giving $10,000 over 3 years is an incentive to get somebody to come to Tumbler Ridge. So why would we not think giving $12,000 or $24,000, whatever number we want to come up with per year, would not be an incentive when Northern Health themselves thinks this is an incentive? I think giving an incentive like that is an opportunity to get people in here, a retention bonus style, that the money is there for every month that they stick around. So to me, I think that at some point tonight, I'm going to put that motion on the floor and we can debate that, but that's where I'm headed with it, and I don't know how much money you guys think, and I'm trying to get a flavor from you guys. Is $2,000 extra per nurse who comes in worth the money? Is $1,000 a month? You know, how important is this issue to you?
Councillor Lehman.
Thank you, Mayor. The sad thing is it's Northern Health's problem. It's also the ministry's problem, but it's now down to us. And we're trying to solve the problem that really shouldn't be ours, but it has become because they're neglecting what they're supposed to do, so it falls on our shoulders. And I have no issues with giving a retention bonus. I think it does work, but it's just sad. And I think what Councilor said before, we need to get a hold of the minister down in Victoria, and we need to make some noise, because it's ridiculous. It's just stupid. We should never be in this situation. So I think we need to go more public and let people know. And then, yeah, I think a retention bonus is a very good.
Okay. Councillor Krakalka, then Majinski.
Thank you, Your Worship. Councilor Ali, again, I'm going to support the motion. To me, it's still, my thing is, I want to put a motion on the floor, and that's why I haven't in regards to amounts, is because with that contract not being delivered to Ms. Thompson, like we did ask in the task force, it seemed like it was no issue. To me, it seemed like she had it in her laptop back in her office, but it never came forward. So I'm wondering if there's something going on there. Kind of weird that everybody that has this contract's not in the office. They're on holidays. I think maybe they didn't realize like what we're saying up here, we're actually willing to do and want to do. But if you're asking for an amount, to me, if Northern Health does $10,000 for 3 years and they don't stay for the 3 years as a payback, to me, I'd like to see ours at $15,000. To me, it ponies up Northern Health to match that for their one nurse that they'll hire for this location.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Majinski.
With that incentive in place right now with Northern Health, how's it even been fulfilled since it's been in fruition of however long they've had this going? Has it been 5-10 years? Has this been going on?
I don't
Has it
know.
ever been fulfilled in Tumbler Ridge? One contractor, has somebody made their bonus of $10,000? You know, so that's my one question. And then also, Northern Health, do they have a contract with these agencies, these 5 agencies that they can pull from to gather nurses? And if they're obligated with a contract and these agencies aren't fulfilling positions, what is the backlash, and do they get a reciprocal amount of money back for not fulfilling these positions?
As far as
And
yeah.
it'd be interesting to see if we can source out these agencies.
Yeah, as far as I understand, they are looking at possible contracts with an agency. I don't believe they have a specific contract in place at the moment. I believe it's just a matter of when they need somebody, they call, kind of like a staffing agency type. But that was one of the discussions, was whether or not a contract with one of the 4 agencies would be beneficial there. And I guess I'm just a little hesitant on putting forward a motion tonight because I think we're missing a bit of information. And I'm wondering if council wants to wait for a staff report to come back and see what the possibilities are and what Northern Health offers and just a bit more background information before we put together a motion. What's council's thoughts? Councillor Norbury?
I think it's a good idea to have a initial offer number. Let's go to the table with this. I think the proper course of action would be to go to our staff. We as an organization just have agreed on $15,000 over 3 years. We as an organization, through our staff, goes to their organization and says, this is what we're ready to start with today. Is this possible? And then, start a negotiation. I think it has to go through the proper procedures. I'll make a motion if that's what we want to do, to have a number to start, if that helps, if that gives clarity to staff. I'm comfortable with 15,000 over 3 years. It's a measured response.
Okay, hold that thought. Councillor Howe?
Yeah, I think that's way too little myself. Like if we're talking about a retention bonus, put a number out there. What's 12 grand a year at the District of Tumbler Ridge for 4 nurses? 40 grand, $50,000 a year. Like if that's what it took for us to get to the point where we could have 4 nurses here that we had to pay up $50,000, big deal. To me, that is a drop in the bucket for the District of Tumbler Ridge to be able to get something for our residents that is absolutely critical and crucial. So 15 grand to me is not enough. It's just in line with what Northern Health is doing. I don't want to match what Northern Health is doing. I want to separate ourselves from Northern Health. And I think when you go out, you put out a large enough amount of money that you can create some hubbub around it. Utilize that to get a hold of the media and say, Tumbler Ridge is fed up. We've had enough. We've worked with Northern Health. We've had committees and meetings, and we've tried, and we're looking for this information. This will just push us off another 6 months if we continue to wait for the information from them. Agree with Councillor Norbury, if we had a starting point that we can at least go to Northern Health and say, the District of Tumbler Ridge is willing to commit, to me, it's $12,000 a year per nurse that you can get as a retention bonus. As they stay for a year, they get their $12,000. If we had somewhere to start with that, we take that and go to them. And if they don't like it, then you get, more in depth with newspapers and CBC and whoever you have to say that while we're actually willing to put our money where our mouth is, they're not willing to take the money. Or they've kicked up a fuss why we want to give our nurses more. Our nurses are more important to us. We need them, right?
Councillor Majinski?
Just to clarify, Councilor Norbury, it's just 15 grand total, or is it 50,000 per nurse per year? Can that be defined, please?
Councillor Norbury?
Maybe it should be more Councillor Calgary, because I'm piggybacking on his idea. 5,000 a year for 2 extra nurses over the course of 3 years. So it's like you sign up for 15 for 3 years. That would equal out to 5,000 per for 2 extra nurses. So potentially $10,000 extra a year for 3 years.
Okay, Councillor.
Thank you, Mayor. And so, Councillor, how you're proposing $12,000 per nurse for 4 nurses
Per year.
$48,000 a year.
We had all 4.
If we had all 4. As a binding contract, ideally, is that something?
Yeah, and
If we, because when you call it an incentive, you don't have to follow that. But if it's an agreement or a binding agreement, I don't know if we can even do that. I honestly don't think we can, but if we could, to lock them in for 4 years, then yeah, we'd be laughing. And 50 grand, that's nothing. That's easy. That's an easy yes, right?
Okay. Councillor Perkalka, then how?
Yeah, I just got two things. So I'd support you, Councillor Howell. I have no issues with that. Maybe I was a little off, maybe I was trying to save money, but I have no issues with what you just said there. Just Councilor Majinski, even if you sign them on, if you sign them for the 3 years, to me, if they're getting paid every year, then if they leave, they're not getting their money. So they leave on the ninth month. That's up to them. It's like Northern House works. I mean, I know you guys don't like to hear from Northern House like that. If they don't stay, so they give them the $15,000 or the $10,000 up front. As soon as they sign the dotted line, wherever it may be, they get $10,000. If they leave, I understand from Melanie, that's how it happens. They get the money up front. If they leave before 3 years, they have to pay it back. How that happens, who knows?
Retro.
My question to the worship is a scholarship program through the Peace Regional District is how much?
There's a bunch of stipulations there, but from what I understand, it's $2,500 first payment, and then after completion is another $2,500. I believe it's 5,000.
Okay, so 5,000, so 5K, and you've got to be from the north?
No, well, anybody can apply, but it's open to Peace River Regional District residents, yes.
So is there any wording in there that if nobody, so I'm not sure how many a year, is there a certain amount a year?
I think
Is
they
there
were
10, 20?
banking for between 10 and 20.
Okay, so is there any wording there that I haven't read it, so I thought maybe I haven't, but maybe we get the information back. Is there anything worded there that if it's not filled by Peace Regional, Peace area students, then it opens up to the province? As long as they come back, right? That it's all sectioned on them to come back to the north.
That's correct. There is a retention to come back to the region for 3 years in order to, that's in contract, yes.
Okay, but even if they, so somebody from back here can apply for it, okay. But that's only 5K, that's it?
I believe so, yes. But I'll get more info from it.
I'd just like to hear it, because I mean, really 5K, like, maybe we need to add to that, like, one of the councils are already spoke that.
Councilor Kirby mentioned
Okay,
that.
well, somebody did, but if it's only 5K, really and truly, why would you sign up, like, I mean, no disrespect, and I hope people are using it, obviously they are. But if some of our students from this area are decide they're not gonna go into nursing, somebody from Vancouver Island is, why would you come to to the Peace region for 3 years for 5K? Like, maybe Tumbler Ridge needs to add to that, maybe we can add more through the PR.
Possibly, yep, absolutely. Okay, anyone else? Councillor Howell?
Yeah, so just the retention bonus is one way of doing it, and I think it has to be done. The other one is a sign-on bonus. That's kind of more what Northern Health is doing, right? You say, we're gonna give you 10 grand up front if you signed it, come stay with us. But the retention bonus is the one where they've got to stick around. So you're not out the money. You're right, they can leave anytime they want. And that's the beauty of a retention bonus. You don't have to pay it out either, right? So, and then loan forgiveness as well. I think that should also be incorporated in it. But I'm gonna put a motion on the floor that we ask staff to develop a program for incentivizing nurses to come to Tumbler Ridge with a sign-on bonus of $12,000 per year. Or sorry, retention bonus. Sorry. For $12,000 per year for 4 nurses, and it is open to the nurse who is here presently.
Seconder, Councillor Krokowka. Discussion, Councillor Majinski.
Just to make sure in the wording it says $12,000 per nurse, because you said four nurses.
Sorry, yeah, that's the intention.
Per nurse, yeah. Ms. Thompson, did you catch that? Or capture that?
Thank you. I'll have Ms. Ernst read it back.
Thank you.
Motion that we ask staff to develop a program for change incentivizing to be a retention bonus for nurses to come to TR for $12,000 a year per nurse for 4 nurses, open to the nurse presently.
As well as open to the nurse presently, or that should,
However it needs to be worded.
that should be,
Yep.
yeah, okay.
As well as open to the nurse presently.
Councillor Majinski.
So that would, for the current nurse, then that would start, I guess, once this passes, I guess.
Correct. Councillor Howell?
So the only thing we can't really think about right now, think about is what about duration? How long do we put this in place for? to me, if this solved our problem, I'd be willing to do this forever. Honestly, $50,000 a year so that we can have, if it actually solved the problem. You know, are we gonna do this for 4 years or 5 years or what? To me, I think at this point, it's open. We're continuing to do this every time that they can get us a nurse, up to 4 nurses. And if they come in and they say we need 5 nurses so they have more of a work-life balance, then we could change and do another motion to add that to it. But I don't think it should be defined as we're only doing it for 4, and if they need a 5th, we're out, right? So, because we should be in on that as well. If the work-life balance is what's important, let's try it.
Councillor Kirkowka.
Yeah, so just on that, I think if we're going down this road and doing a retention bonus and with that amount, I don't think you're never gonna get away from it. Like, you know, you can't say, oh, geez, there's 5,000 people graduating this year. Geez, let's pull it off. This puts us out there. And I think that's what we gotta do. I mean, it's to me, sad in a way that we had to do that, or have to. Probably not our job, but to me, I think that shows how, to me, every councillor, and I can't speak, but to me, just listening to the discussion, it shows how every councillor here feels for health for the residents of Tumbler Ridge. That's to me what I see here. You know, I mean, like when I hear the stories of 35 years living in Tumbler Ridge and moving out of town, we don't have medical care. Probably would have retired, like probably would have stayed here their whole lives, but because they possibly can't go to emerge, are now leaving our community. And just to me, it just shows how this council works.
Well, it's a serious situation. Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. I can't help but feeling maybe we're getting caught up in a little bit of hype here. Let's slow down. Let's make sure this actually affects the change we want to do. And I think we need to be measured, not just have a knee-jerk reaction. Let's throw $50,000 a year out when we've had these massive debates over $8,000, $20,000, and at one time we're against that. But now we're signing a check for $50,000 a year for 20 years. I think we need to have a little bit more of a measured approach to this versus here's a stack of cash, do it. Like, let's slow down. Like, I don't know if I'm against it, but like, this is happening. We're having a knee-jerk reaction to this, and I think signing away $48,000 is preemptive. Slow down. Let's get a negotiation with Northern Health, because if this would work, yeah, but we're not guaranteeing that, right? Like, we need to slow down a little bit. I think we're a little fast.
I understand your concern, and I don't think we're knee-jerking it. I think we have put the time in with Northern Health. We have lobbied Northern Health and the ministry to try and improve the services in our community. And time again, we are getting the ball dropped from underneath us. And I think this is a proactive approach, in my opinion. Councillor Majinski, then Kirkowka, then Howe, did you have?
Thank you, Mayor Burton. Yeah, and even if we all vote in favor of this tonight, do we still not have to bring it back to a regular meeting of council to adopt it?
Correct.
So, and that's gonna give us a week at least to mull over. We can even talk to the residents and they can have their say in their concerns, and we can even bring that back up, and we can also even put in a policy in place, so that it's locked in, and then say we don't have a nursing crisis and there are 10,000 nurses that are available out of the palm of our hand, but then we can just remove that policy, and then that's one way to say that we're not going to be offering these policies. I don't know if that's a policy in place just so that it is locked in, and then it's defined, somewhat of a defined timeline.
Councillor Kirkowka.
Yeah, Councillor Majinski pretty much hit it, but that's all I was gonna say. This motion is just going forward to the next mayor council.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're gonna, I'm not saying staff's gonna have it at the next meeting, it might be the meeting after. So there is time to have some information come back from staff, maybe some wording they'd be fine, who knows what. But really and truly, I mean, I know you're concerned that we're moving so fast, we're just throwing it out there. Really and truly, we're just trying to move forward to another meeting. With, maybe we'll have a bit of information that does come in from staff, we're not know. And then we can make the decision. This is just putting it forward, it's Councillor.
Councillor Howe, then Norbury.
Yeah, and I just, like, again, $48,000 or $50,000 might seem like a lot of money, but 3 years ago when we were doing fantastic with our investments in the district of Tumbler Ridge, we did $600,000 in interest on the money that we already have in the bank. That's 1/12 of the money, just that we made in interest. We don't need new taxation to take care of this. We can just use a small portion of that money to pay for this type of an incentive. And if this is the number one concern of this council and of residents of the community, what's $50,000 to deal with that issue? Like, I mean, you know, we spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on bathrooms over in the community center that, you know, really, honestly, like, what's 50,000? Just give it a go, give it a shot, right? And, you know, we might be off on this, might not work, but I do have another motion I'd like to read after this one, and this may also help with getting the ball rolling with the ministry as well.
Sorry, Councillor Norberty, then Majinski.
Thank you, Mayor Bertrand. You know, and speak to Councillor Howe. I hope you're as cavalier with $50,000 for other projects. You know,
When it's your number one concern, I am.
so, with this, we're going to be talking about it in another meeting. We're talking about incentives. We do need to hear from our community, because when we talk about other incentives that cost us nothing in the district of Tumbler Ridge, like giving the people that work at the community center access to use their facilities for free, you know, that was one of the few times I had people actually reach out to me and talk to me about it. So it's good that we have opportunities for people to talk to us about this, because whatever we think, we still need to be reflective of our community and give us time to hear from them about what that is. So
I agree.
it's
Absolutely. Councillor Majinski.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. And in no way I'm trying to put down Northern Health in this conversation, and I might have come across that way a bit as well, but I think this is going to help them a lot, and hopefully they can see that and appreciate that we're trying to put in some money into this game as well. And we've had a lot of discussion about it. We spent hours and hours in these chambers dealing with this, and I just hope that they understand that it's not to bash them or badmouth them, but to also help them in this retention and help our own community. That's what we're looking out for, number one. We're not looking out for us to reach out and for things on, we're looking for us. And yeah, we should start doing more of those care packages or whatever they do to bring other people in. And yes, use it for the RCMP, use it for everybody in the health center, right? So, no, and it'd be interesting to see how much more they pay for agency nurses to come here for short durations, opposed to having full-time nursing staff here. You know, I'm sure they're out of pocket quite a bit for these agency nurses, so compared to having somebody full-time. So I think we're going to help them out a bit as well.
Councillor Lehman.
Thank you, Mayor. So this $48,000 ends up costing each resident of Tumbler Ridge less than $30 a year. And it could affect anybody, including baby Abigail to an old guy like me. So it's for the benefit of everybody in town, not just a small select group. So you gotta remember that.
That's true. Okay, call the question on the motion. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Take a, oh, sorry, Councillor Howe. Oh, I was just gonna break for a small recess, but if you have it. Okay, let's do a 10-minute recess, please.
Huh?
Sous chefs are sous is and then it goes chef, sous chef. Then there's usually sometimes, depending on the jobs, junior sous chefs. And then it goes chef de partie, and then deputy chef de partie, and then first, second, third. Right. Yeah. But yeah. You know, I was the first week on camera. It's okay. Potatoes and things like that. You can shoot them on the camera. So, this way. You can cut potatoes. So, in case potatoes. It's funny that you can watch it.
Sorry to interrupt, we're working a good.
That's,
Oscar.
okay. Call back to order. Still on 8.1, discussion item, Councillor Howell.
A motion on the floor that we send a letter to the Minister of Health explaining the dire shortage in healthcare we're facing and the willingness for the DTR to assist financially to fill the gaps on a permanent basis.
Seconder, Councillor Kirkowka. Discussion. Councillor Lehman.
Thank you, Mayor. I think we should also let the minister know that we're willing to pony up with the money because they don't seem to be able to.
Yeah, I think that's captured in the motion. Councilor Majinski? Councilor Majinski?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Do you know what kind of questions you're going to be asked of you tomorrow?
I just gave a bit of a background, where we're at, what kind of cooperation has Northern Health been giving, and what kind of things the district has been doing.
Yeah, 'cause the reason I ask is maybe we can utilize that as a little bit of leverage going forward as well. Talk to the minister. So it would be like, because obviously it's an issue and somebody's reached out to us to have you, make some review.
I reached out to them. Any other discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried, thank you. 8.2, BCM ministry meetings. Councilor Norbury.
So let's get my hand up there first on always. First two, health and Ministry of Mines. Health, talk about the nursing shortages, and I think the provincial government needs to do more to help with the nursing shortage. Citing potential loan forgiveness for nurses, how to funnel nurses into the programs, something. How does one on there? And then the Ministry of Energy, Mines, Low Carbon, whatever. We need to go back for.
Sorry, that was funny.
What's fun?
Low carbon, whatever. Sorry.
There's like 3 mouthfuls there. Like I got a mouthful and a half. I mean, I read out loud for perfection. Shorten it up, guys.
Okay.
to promote expediting permits for mines. Let's help our biggest employer here.
So just to follow up on that one, the Ministry of Mines, the Resource Municipalities Coalition had a conference call with the minister a few weeks ago, and that was the topic, was permitting. We sent a letter with concerns, so they gave us a conference call, and their responses were they're very well aware of the overlaps in the permitting process, and they are seeing how they can streamline going from multiple ministries to just the one ministry. They have made some changes as far as process go and as far as duplication within the ministries, and they're expecting to see over the next 6 months some real changes in process because of that. Councillor Norbury?
I think that sounds good. That sounds really great from them, but I think it's still a good idea for us to go hit them back in 3 months to be politely annoying and say, how are you guys doing on that?
I agree. Yep. Okay, any other councillors? Councillor Howe?
Councillor Kirby mentioned to me tonight that she wanted to make sure we're talking about healthcare, electoral boundaries, and education. So I think education is a critical one as well. We seem to have a lot of issues with retaining teachers up here and getting teachers, and there are some other issues within our school that we're having problems with, the trades classes and stuff particularly. And turns out to be a lot of time a union issue why we can't get somebody to come in here and teach trades classes. We're promoting that big time in our town. We have a lot of tradespeople per capita in this community, more so than many others. That's critical for us to get that in front of them, that we need to figure out ways to keep the teachers up in this area and give them the resources to do their job.
Okay. Education. I do have a meeting planned with our careers coordinator next Monday, just to get a better handle on the trades dual credit and the situation at the school at the moment. Councillor Norbury, then Lehman, then Kirkauka.
I can wait till other councillors have a chance to speak.
Sure thing. Councillor Lehman.
Thank you. Ministry of Children and Family Development, I'm just wondering about the kids in the class with daycare.
if there's any new initiatives possibly or new grants available. Okay. Councillor Kirkowka.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, I had the same one that Council Lehman had, but also we should probably have a meeting with Minister of Tourism. How we always try to have. Still worth it. I know there's lots of stuff coming up in the government right now in regards to grants and stuff that are available to tourism businesses, but we should still have a meeting with them.
I agree. I definitely see Tumbler Ridge as being one of their focuses, not only provincially, but in northern BC tourism as well. So it certainly would be good to continue that relationship. Councillor?
And then just the forest land, Flint. Just in regards to, I mean, I can't speak on behalf of the Mountain Bike Association, wasn't asked on, but I believe they're still waiting for tender on the Ridge Mountain here. I think we should be touching base. I mean, they were awarded a grant, but I believe they're still waiting on that. Again, I don't sit there, maybe Councilman knows more, but as far as I know, they still haven't received their tender on that.
Yeah, and I'd certainly like to talk to Flynn Roard about the snowmobile management strategy. Councillor Majinski?
Thank you, Member Trent. One more thing on the Flint Road there is, I was actually in today talking to Ms. Thompson about the fire mitigation on the ridge as well. Because that's an overlap that's in the same ministry, but neither one of them knew about what was going on. So, and they said that they're thinking about doing the ridge 4 years from now, but we have plans, or sorry, not we, TRMA has plans on doing some trails there. So maybe just a little bit more cohesive work on there and see if that could actually be a benefit as long as it's not tree thinning like what we're doing down the lake. It could be something more of the tree thinning or the underbrush thinning in the deadfall. But just to get a grasp on that and where they're currently doing that, and if it's going to be tailored the same way they're doing up at 4th of John with poplars.
Yeah, I definitely need to continue that conversation. From what I understood last time, it was just the underbrush, but we'll find out.
And I talked to Ms. Thompson, so I don't know if it's necessary to talk to the ministry about that, if she's maybe, I don't know.
Okay.
That could be discussion.
Yeah, that's an item for staff as well, yeah. Councillor Norbert? Yeah.
Thank you, Member Trent. Expand a little bit on the Minister of Education. I would like us to go down and advocate for less virtual classrooms in Tumbler Ridge. The reason why is that there's a lot of kids that are doing their courses remotely, and like that comes to, I know I have very intricate knowledge to how this district works, and like yeah, they have money for shop teachers, but like I think we need to move rather than you have 100 students, this is how much money you get. You need to have a service level discussion with them, right? Like don't just give us, $1,000 per student. We want a full curriculum. We want to have a curriculum-based plan here versus a student-based plan, so that we can actually have more classrooms. Because you shouldn't have to take a core program like math, science, online because you're not in the right semester. I think that's something to be asking about. Maybe they have an option for nurses. Right? This is another ministry we can talk about nursing. This is get more nursing program, incentivize more. So education, that's another one I think. Another one. What about transportation? Ministry of Transportation. They keep telling us no about Highway 52, but let's keep hitting them yes, because Google Maps is sending people through these unpaved sections of highway, and we still want to attract people from the east to us, and not just be, they're concerned about people leaving. Well, we're going to see a lot more reciprocal people coming in. Just, be that politely annoying face every year. And, now we're hearing there's going to be a cold truck every 5 minutes on that road, because when you break it down, like the loads coming up every 5 minutes, they should be aware of that. Like we saw what happened down the road to Chet when they're doing that for a few months. And, maybe there might be some infrastructure that we do.
As well as Highway 52 North, it's not getting any better, that's for sure. Councillor Majinski.
Yeah, with Highway 2 South, is that designated a secondary road? The reason I ask is, we had Ridge Roaders writing a letter concerned about the sign that they have on the side of the road, which is, they're only allowed a small sign. But yet other industries, have big signs out there, yet they're restricted on the size of the sign that they can put up there, even if it's to MODI standards. So it's kind of funny to say that they're kind of restricted what they're allowed to put on the side of a road. That's exactly when the road's not even paved. You know, it's like a gravel road, really, right? So and then the other part of it is this house deal thing. It's like, you can't call that our main road in, or they,
Yeah, it's not a Class A highway. I think it's considered Class B highway, given the speed restriction on it as well. Yeah, I'm in agreement with all of these. As far as the education goes and talking about nurses, I think that would be the Ministry of Advanced Education that we'd maybe discuss that about. I'm not sure if, to be honest, I've given up on our college situation in town. It's very disheartening to be trying to work on solutions for crickets. So I'm not really interested in meeting with advanced education at this time. But all of these other ones, I'm definitely in agreement with. So we have Ministry of Health, Ministry of Mines, Ministry of Education, Ministry of Children's Services, Ministry of Tourism, FLNRO, and Transportation. Councillor Norbury?
Well, citizen services, we can talk to them about connectivity and other options for net funding streams, whatever, just talking about connectivity and the importance of getting our community connected. Let's just have another just quick plan B or plan C.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Please.
Next one will be municipal affairs. Let's talk about, let's have a discussion about municipal investments. Can we get them taking a look at that, see if we can have other options for investing municipal funds? I'm not saying we go out and we can, put it out these risky investments, but can you find some ground for us to do more than 1 or 2%?
It's a good point. I did hear some rumblings of that, I think last year, that there was going to be some talk about trying to adapt that a little bit, but hasn't really gone anywhere as far as I understand. Okay, I think that's a pretty good list. Does anyone want to be mayor on any of these? No, I'm quite all right. Councillor Kirkauka.
So just on that, I mean, I'm not sure how they're gonna work through it all, but in my opinion, if we have 2 or 3 calls at once, I think that's a priority thing. Then again, I mean, that's through the staff, because, I mean, they're doing it for so many days, but we're not the only community, I mean, we've got quite the list.
Got
I
quite
mean,
the
to
list.
me, we need to make sure that we know that the priority is healthcare, right? So if there's, no disrespect, and if it's something else that, we want something from it, we can't move that meeting time, maybe we can ask for a meeting after the fact, a month later or something like that. I just don't want to skip out on some of the important ones to get it all important. I think we have to find it.
I agree. I would say Ministry of Health, Ministry of FLNRO, and yeah, those are top 2 for me. Councillor Norbury.
We're trying, we do have a few people with authority in the room. We have yourself, we have a deputy mayor, we have a, a chief administrative officer. We could potentially split up. I think it's a good idea. Throw 2 people at if there's issues.
It's possible.
I think it's a good idea. In the past, we've had yourself speak, and then if somebody had some sort of expertise in the area, could also speak to add a little bit of passion to it. I think that's a great idea to have like a first and a second chair almost.
Yeah, I agree.
We can just sort of chip in later, like, oh, I feel passionate about this.
Yeah.
Talk to.
Yeah, and again, this year is going to be virtually, so these minister meetings are going to be the week prior to the convention. And it happened last year, and I think everybody was really happy about it. They weren't running back and forth trying to get from the voting to a meeting. So I think it worked out really well, and I think it's going to continue like this in the future. So, just in perspective, on the regional district side, they limited to 3 meetings, 3 minister meetings, because they were at a point where they were getting 12 meetings and they just couldn't do it. They were splitting up here and there, and it was just too much. So virtually the week prior, I think you have more opportunity for these meetings, so I certainly wouldn't want to limit them. But yeah, health and FLNROR is top 2 for me. But I think given the week prior, I think we're going to be able to accommodate all of these. So, but I do like your idea of the, if we need to, we can split up as well. Yeah. Okay, any other discussion, any other ministries or topics? Councillor Kurkauka.
Just on it, is it worth, I mean, I've seen it in the report earlier, is it worth reaching out to the mayor?
Premier?
The reason I say that, I mean, you know, we're talking to ministries constantly in regards, and we use Tumbler Ridge Mountain Bike Association, I mean, they were given a grant, don't have a tender on it. But, you know, so maybe it's a way of helping, maybe have a couple asks from him, maybe to push his minister along on an item like that, with healthcare.
A lot of, yeah.
The daycare, you know, there could be a couple of wants there that, you know, just to maybe a refresh with him. I mean, especially if we can get it after we've met with a few ministers and say, hey, this is what we asked for, this is the reason.
I like it. You know, we can bring up a number of these topics with the Premier, the snowmobile management strategy. You know, he will oversee healthcare, obviously he oversees. So yeah, I do like that idea. Add that to the list. Okay. All right, moving on to 8.3, BC Hydro meeting, UBCM. Correspondence dated June 1st, 2021 from BC Hydro with opportunity to virtually meet with BC Hydro senior leadership. Council interested in this meeting? Councilor Norbury?
Hey, we're kind of, you know, I hate to bring it up because I'm not super familiar with it, but don't we have, aren't we wanting us, like Mackenzie or Moncton having both sides of streetlights lit? We want to have done, like.
There was some communication there, yeah.
Okay, maybe we can talk to you again about that.
Streetlights.
Unfortunately, that's one of those things that's on my peripherals, but like,
Yep.
we know there's an issue that we want to have.
Yep. I think it's not going to be a quick one as far as I understand. It's going to take some time, I believe, but these new additions or improvements to our walking paths would need to be discussed, I'm sure. I've been hearing a lot of talk about a legacy fund from BC Hydro in regards to Site C. City of Fort St. John has put together a community foundation with this legacy fund. I'm not 100% sure if we qualify or if we're receiving anything at the moment. Ms. Thompson, do you know of?
Thank you, River Trent. At this time, I'm not sure of the legacy fund, and I know we aren't receiving any money for that, but it's definitely something we can put on our radar so we get more.
Okay. And, you know, another topic with BC Hydro, I've been in contact with a few river rats, river boaters in Fort St. John. And the going concern is once the Site C dam is completed, the Peace River isn't going to be very attractive to riverboat on anymore. So a lot of the boaters are going to be moving down here to the Murray, which is going to put us in a capacity issue at some point, I believe. We already have trucks and trailers up onto the highway as it is on long weekends. I'm wondering if this could be a topic with BC Hydro, because it is going to affect our community in some way, as far as the river boaters go. Councillor Kurkauka.
Yeah, so when you mention that legacy fund, I mean, Councillor, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe when Site C was first term, it was the first term there, and then Mr. McPherson brought back, and it sounded like there was maybe some kind of funds available for that regard, in regards to the boat launch and all that. Them knowing that they were gonna be pushing boaters to the area. So there was talk about something then, and I'm not sure where it ever went. That might have been while he was sitting on the PRD, but that I remember that legacy fund being talked about. There could be funds there for expansion or whatever the hell, with knowing that the river's going to be taking on more population.
Yeah. Well, and that's an interesting point because it might be already completed now, like the agreements might be already been made, and we may not be able to access this legacy funds. I don't know. I'll definitely be looking into it more, but that's interesting. Councillor Norbury, then Majinski.
So, I mean, just because we're on the topic, I did a quick search in 2013. There was a Site C Regional Legacy Benefit Agreement signed with PRIORITES. 2013.
There is currently they do not have a community benefit agreement at the moment. They're currently negotiating. And it's been mentioned by a number of directors there that regional district is late to the party. And so it's not completed yet, but it's not going very well. Let's put it that way. Councillor Majinski.
Trying to go off of memory of the legacy fund, I believe we are part of it. I think it starts in 2022, and I think it's a small portion. I believe all communities are part of it. But I just can't remember or recall where I was part of that, but I'm pretty sure we are.
That's what it.
But I think it's just we don't get access to it, and it doesn't get input for us until later on.
Till next year. That's what I've been told, is every community's going to be able to access this or is entitled to it, but I don't know enough about it yet. Councillor Howe?
So what about the conversation with BC Hydro about a call for power or call to power for windmills? So it's very limited now. They can do the small 15 megawatt projects, and it's just not the scale that they need to pull these things off. But you know, Thunder Mountain, if Thunder Mountain were to ever go, I mean, there's something like 400 to 800 windmills in that area. It creates an entire new industry, so big so that they may even construct stuff in Tumbler Ridge. That was the discussion of how big Thunder Mountain actually is. You know, can we get the ball rolling on that? I understand they're going to have a glut of power with this dam or whatever, but you know, as we're partway through the build of the dam, is there any thought at this time that we could possibly be producing power and selling it to Alberta? Is there any light at the end of the tunnel for our wind producers in the area? And should we be getting prepared that there could be another large wind project in our area?
Yeah, you're right. You know, this project that you speak of has been on the books for quite a few years, and basically they're sitting there waiting for Site C to be completed to see what happens next. So I agree, it's definitely a good topic to talk to them about. I just had another thought on the Ministry of Mines. Another topic could be possible outlook on hydrogen production in the north. Anything else for BC Hydro? Yeah. Well, hopefully Site C will do that. Okay. Okay, I think that's a pretty good list. Definitely some discussion topics there. Good question and answer period, Ms. Thompson. Have you received anything?
I do not have anything.
Thank you. Adjournment, please. Recommendation, Councillor Kukalka.
June 14th, 2021 policies and priorities meeting adjourned.
Seconder, Councillor Lehman. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
The suspense made you think that there was something there, Jen.
Yeah.
The pause.
Refresh.
Good discussion, folks.